score in all likelihood. And perhaps the CFP. Jackson trying to turn the corner. And he did not get there. Jaren McVay raced him to the pylon and made sure he came up inches short.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
And here's a reverse. Heading to the corner. Heading. Touchdown, Michigan.
The Sikkim 365 Radio Friday show is brought to you by Bird Culchin Ford.
Offset with Smith in the backfield on 2nd and goal. And instead, they come around with the tight end. Ben Sims takes it in.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Stroud launching for the end zone. Jump ball. Touchdown, Smith and Jigba. Are you kidding me?
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
First down pass attempt. Felt the pressure and went down. It was Bernard who affected him.
Sikkim 365 Radio is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Third and 2 more plays if they need them. Here comes Will Anderson storming around the corner. Down goes Bennett.
Got him. Had a corner blitz on that time.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Well, good afternoon. As the 2022 high school football season in Texas began last night, there was even a game on ESPNU with Arlington Martin beating Lake Travis 39-31. Texas high school football opened last night. It will continue for the weekend tonight and also Saturday as well. And we're here at Panther Stadium in Midway, just on the south to the southeast part. Southwest, I guess, and east of Waco, just due south off of I-35. We're here tonight. We have a game, 6:30 pregame, Midway in Mansfield. We're going to get into some Texas high school football a little bit today, including one of the great legends who played his high school football at Waco High, Derrick Johnson, former Texas All-American, former Pro Bowl linebacker with the Kansas City Chiefs. He'll join us here early in the show at 3:15. You can see as we're on YouTube today with the technology, Paul Catalina has set everything up. Garrett Ross back at our studio. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak. I'm David Smoak. We're glad to have you here, and we'll take you until 6 o'clock tonight. Let's get into a couple of things, Texas high school football. Just a couple of notes. And Refugio has the longest streak of consecutive playoff appearances in Texas with 44 as current. They have had 44 consecutive years they've made the playoffs. Tied with first is Converse Judson, 44, but last year they missed the playoffs. Aledo has the most state championships in Texas high school football history, 11-man public UIL schools with 10, and all of that journey starts, in fact, tonight. There were a couple of games last night. Like a lot of you around the country that follow us on YouTube, we're going to get to college football here very quickly, but there was a Harker Heights, same district as Midway, and they have some Division I players that are being heavily recruited and or already committed. They beat Ellison, another school out of Killeen, last night, 33-7. And then Midway, in 3 weeks, will have a game here against Heath High School. They had the explosive team last couple of years. Denton Geyer beat them 47-14 last night. And how about this? New Braunfels was down 33-10 to Denton Ryan, one of the great state powers in Texas. Came back to win the game and shocked Denton Ryan 34-33 last night. Texas High beat Lone Star out of Frisco, an explosive team, 38-33. High school football. Derrick Johnson, will have some memories with him. We'll also take your text today at 254-339-1122. And Paul and Craig, high school football season has begun.
Yeah, it has. This is the saddest day of my year, not because of the kids and all that. It's just I feel like I'm herding cats until the game actually starts. So I'll get excited when a kickoff happens. Really right now, if somebody came in and beat the absolute crap out of me, it would be better than I feel right now.
You don't need to let everyone know your feelings, but I know Paul's got a lot of technical stuff he's working with here as we bring you the show from Panther Stadium. Craig Smoak, first time you ever did a broadcast, what was it, 1997 or 8, a sideline interview with a coach that was being shut out down in Temple, Mike Owens. Remember that? The first time you had to interview a coach and his team had thrown up all over themselves with 3 or 4 turnovers in the first half.
Yeah, that was more like 2000, but same area, and that was a long time ago, and back here for another go round, and it's a beautiful day today, and looking forward to some football later on this afternoon. It's been a long wait. I'm not sure what's going on with the scoreboard. I just checked that out.
They got a brand new scoreboard. Yeah, it's getting unveiled, and they put that up, and I don't know if they've had some issues with it or not, but they have that one that they put up after the scrimmage they had a couple of weeks ago. And that scrimmage at Lake Belton, and also Midland Legacy was here. And I'm not sure if that's being, I don't know if they just got something over it until it's, I don't know if they're going to unveil that, but it was working a couple of weeks ago.
So anyways, just noticed that out of the corner of my eye. The scoreboard's looking a little funky over there. But, like I said, it's good to be back. It's football season. We've been waiting a long time to get college football underway, and with that obviously comes high school and the pros too. So the NFL's right around the corner, and high school's underway, like you said, and looking forward to seeing what Shane Anderson and Midway can do this year.
We're going to have guests today. We mentioned Derrick Johnson here momentarily. Also, Grace Rayner from The Athletic has written the story about South Carolina's Rooster, a story that is almost too good to be true. The Gamecocks, the Rooster, who's been called the Cock Commander. A newspaper had a poll out, and Cock Commander Paul and Craig had like 79% of the vote. There's some others, of course, names as well. They're not going to use that, I don't think.
There's
but that
no
seems...
way. There's no way.
And that goes back to a journalism class back in the day. And I think that's some of the great traditions and, of course, funny stories that you have in college football. But we'll have Grace Rayner. She wrote the story, kind of the background on it. She'll be on with us today at 3:30. Also, Grayson Grundhafer, our recruiting analyst, his thoughts at 3:45. Taylor McCard today at 4:30, ESPN college football analyst. And Jaren McVay, the hero of the game between Oklahoma State and Baylor in the Big 12 championship, who somehow made the play at the 1-inch line, will join us today at 4 o'clock, among others, in the 5 o'clock hour. Paul's Top 5 to close out the show. It's been kind of quiet. Would you think that it's been kind of quiet on the college football front, other than the fact the season kicks off tomorrow?
Not in Auburn, Alabama. It has.
Auburn's AD resigned. You're right.
And that's obviously a big story because of the fact that Brian Harson's in, pretty much no man's land at this point with his job status. And, there's already, been several rumblings about how just sticky that situation is for Auburn athletics as a whole. It's just a mess. It's not a good fit. It hasn't been a good fit. Doesn't seem like it's going to be a good fit. But yeah, you would think that the Brian Harsin saw that news today and sees just even more writing on the wall. I mean, it's just a kind of a mess down there in Auburn, Alabama right now. So their AD resigns. I mean, this close to the football season, you got a coach that's on the hot seat that not a lot of fans like, and
barely made it back to coach this year.
Yeah, it's just a messy deal. So I'm sure there's a lot of talk down there right now, a lot of chatter about what this season holds and what their future holds. But yeah, they got some things to figure out for the Auburn Tigers.
Alan Green had 5 months left on his contract. If you're an AD, Paul, and you have 5 months left in your contract that has not been renegotiated, extended, that's not good news.
No, and it's probably why you negotiate the exit now and say, that's it. I'll live to fight another day and get another job. And Auburn, has that issue of they get very impatient with everything. And so, look, the most impatient they've ever been with a coach apparently is just happening right now with Brian Harsin and the AD that hired him out the door now. And if they don't do well this year,
oh, he's done.
I mean, they have to they're not 8-4 is going to get him fired.
I love that Brian Harsin. He was out of the country when a lot of this was going on, and there were people who were trying to get him done, gone, out, fire him, whatever, buy him out, and he did not blink. He did not blink. He came back. He wants to coach the team. He wants to see if we could, get them to a point where It makes it hard. He might win and still get fired, or whatever they're going to do. And Auburn, of course, goes through coaches probably as much as any college football program I can imagine.
Yeah, probably. I mean,
they've had long-term guys with Pat Dye among others, but it does seem like they do chew them up.
Well, they fired the guy who won him a national title and got him to another one. So Gus Malzahn won one and then got him to another one and almost won that one against a team that they really shouldn't have been in the game with, if you asked the people when it started. And they took that one down to the – I mean, FSU won the last 2 seconds of the game.
Oh, I know.
So and then they got tired of Gus real quick after that. And
we mentioned earlier, maybe a week or two ago, there was a comment from him on his Twitter feed. I just happened to see it pop up where he said, I've never enjoyed, or I'm enjoying college football being a head coach again because of the pressure. And everyone knows when they take the job, it's not like you don't know that they chew coaches up like I guess you could say a trash.
About a blender.
Yes, that's even a better and easier word to use. Green was entering his final 5 months, asked Auburn for clarity about his future. Expires in January. Sources telling ESPN that he was told Auburn was likely to wait until the end of the football season to make a decision. And they could have a clean break. It could be he's obviously gone, and who knows what's going to happen with Brian Harsin as well. Issues in the football program have lingered. School fired Malzahn. Paul, you brought that up in December of 2020. Struggled to find a replacement in part because of Auburn's reputation for administrative dysfunction. And they ended up with Brian Harsin, and he's trying to survive as the head coach at Auburn. We are going to have today, and we'll need to get to Derrick Johnson right at 3:15. Craig and Paul and I, Levi Caraway asked us to put up our preseason predictions for the Big 12. And we'll have that today. There is one note on our schedule that we had listed as a segment today at 5. It's a hype video. Craig, there's the scoreboard, by the way, working really well now. A hype video, but we can't because of the technical, what we're doing, the logistics of where we are at a high school stadium, what we're doing with the internet. We can't run it today. And I talked to Brian on the phone earlier this afternoon. We will run that sometime today at 5. It was nice enough for him to use a little piece of our interview with Dave Aranda up at Big 12 Media Days back in July. All right, let's break here. Come back. Derrick Johnson. He was a star player here at Waco High. He was an All-American at Texas. Heck, he was a blue-chip parade All-American at Waco High. All-American at UT. Hell of an NFL career as well. Derrick Johnson on the start of the high school season. His thoughts about UT. Next on SICM 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texans are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Welcome back to Sick'em 365 Radio.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
We will be joined by Derrick Johnson here momentarily. Derrick, of course, is a part of an NIL group that's helping at the University of Texas with what he does. Of course, every school now is adding those along the way, and UT is at theirs as well. Derrick Johnson, the former star, is a part of that as well. I got to tell you a story about Derrick Johnson in high school. So it was 2000, and Craig, I don't know if you were on the sidelines yet, but Lee High School, which is now Legacy High School in Tyler, had a running back named Derrick Farmer, who ended up committing to play at Alabama with Dennis Franchione, changed his mind to go to A&M, where Dennis Franchione was. And they had a showdown earlier in the year against Waco High here in Waco at the Waco ISD Stadium. And Derrick Farmer had a long touchdown run to start the second half, but Waco High hammered what was then Lee 34-9, and Derrick Johnson finished that game with 20-plus tackles. He was everywhere. And the following week against John Tyler, the same school alma mater, names like Earl Campbell, etc., he had 29 tackles the following week in Tyler to kind of just set the tone for who he was as a great player, eventually committed to Mack Brown in the University of Texas. He was a tackling machine and played at a school at the time that was one of the elite schools in the state of Texas at Waco High. We're live at Panther Stadium tonight, 6:30, our pregame. It will be Midway and Mansfield, teams that have met each other 6 times previously. We'll have more on that game, of course, as we get closer to it. 6:30 pregame, 7 o'clock is the kick on Sick'em 365 Radio and also 365 Sports. Also today, Friday, our shows when we're on the road at whatever stadium it might be. Burt Colgin Ford sponsors our show Friday afternoon, thanks to Mark Stewart and Company on Loop 340. They are the sponsors of our high school football on the road shows and home on Friday afternoons here at Panther Stadium. Next week we'll be at Ratliff Stadium in Odessa, Texas. And so thanks to Burt Colgin Ford and also Mark Stewart. Paul, nothing there with Derrick? Working on Derrick Johnson to join this. Craig, what do you remember about Derrick Johnson?
I wasn't at that game that you're talking about. Again, I didn't get started until like 01, so I didn't, man the sidelines for Derrick Johnson. But I do recall seeing him. I guess it was against Lee, and being in the stands for that one. And it was a pretty incredible performance. I don't remember exactly. I mean, that's been 20 years now at this point. I don't remember exactly all the details of it, but I do remember the basically back-to-back games that he had against the Tyler schools and what was Lee, now Legacy, and JT, which is now just Tyler High. But, yeah, it was incredible, and everybody, I mean, he was about my age at that point, a couple years older maybe, and I remember just me and all my, friends at the time, many that were on the team that were just, gawking over this guy. And this was before everybody and their mother was a recruiting reporter, and it was so widely covered and so many different sites and all of that. I mean, there was basically just rivals, and there was like Max Finger, and that was about it. It was, not a super large market. And so, to hear recruiting stuff or to, hear about a guy like a Derrick Johnson, it was like a big deal. It still is. Still, like, I'm sure there will be somebody tonight that, people are here like, oh, yeah, that's the kid that's getting offers from blah, 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 blah. But it just seemed like a bigger deal back then, maybe because I was younger and maybe because there was less attention paid to it. But he was somebody that was getting that type of attention very early on in those days. And Texas was a hot program at the time. He was one of those building blocks that led to Mac eventually winning the title. Not that long, I guess, less than 5 years afterwards. Yeah, I mean, right around that time period. So, yeah, incredible player, one of the best high school players I've ever seen. And I think anybody who saw him would say that about him as well, even if they didn't see him against the Tyler schools in those legendary performances. But, yeah, he was a badass and definitely a Waco legend, that's for sure.
All right, Paul, let's take another break. We'll try to track down Derrick Johnson. Grace Rayner, I know, is available for us from theathletic.com. Her story about South Carolina and the Rooster and what they're going to call the Rooster and how that story has gone viral for many reasons. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Cars priced right both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red or white and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Did you know the average American pays over $500 a month for their car payment? What would you do if you didn't have to make that payment for 90 days? Where else could you use $1,500? Keep your car payments at Genco. Buy new or refinance your current vehicle and have no payments for 90 days. Take advantage of our low rates and no payments for 90 days. Only at Genco. Subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and policies insured by NCUA.
My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
It's summertime. There's picnics, reunions, cookouts, and so much to do. And Waco Custom Marketplace on Lake Air Drive in Waco is your home for the butcher shop that can help you with beef, pork, poultry, and seafood. They are spectacular at being able to deliver you whatever cut of steak you want. Bone-in ribeye, however thick you want it, that's great. They'll do it. Sirloin, T-bone, porterhouse, bacon wrap filet. And of course, as I mentioned, they have pork, poultry, and seafood. Their Norwegian salmon is spectacular. Also, all of the sauces and seasonings you'll ever need, all the ingredients you'll ever need to make sure you have that perfect, flawless taste. It's delicious whenever you take something off the grill. And a full-fledged bakery as well with fresh baked bread and kolaches every single day. Up and down the aisle of Waco Custom Marketplace, you also have what you need from knickknacks to snacks to more at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, Waco Custom Marketplace.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with Grayson Grundhafer of Sikkim365.com. Brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
Grayson will be with us in about 20-25 minutes. Grace Rayner from theathletic.com on South Carolina and the Rooster and its name. We'll do that today in this hour. We're now joined by former high school and college All-American Derrick Johnson, NFL Pro Bowl linebacker as well with the Chiefs. Derrick Johnson with us on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Derrick, it's the opening week of the high school football season. And I always remember when I first saw you, we told the story about your game against Lee High School, and Derek Farmer was the running back. Does the first week of high school and college ever, just something that you flash back with some of your memories?
Absolutely. Those times you never forget. You never forget. I can still remember tackling Derek Farmer a few times. You talk about a big that actually went to A&M, but came into WISD Stadium and got a piece of those, got a piece of the Lions. But every year it's always a big time when it comes to high school football, and Waco is ranked up there, especially back in the day, ranked up there with the top of them.
Derrick, what is your favorite game you've ever played? Was it on the high school level, the college level, or the NFL level?
Oh, man, that's hard. I tell you what, it was much easier making 20 and 30 tackles in a high school game than it was when it came to college. And I've had some games where I was a bunch of tackles for loss. But none of them really stick out. I can't really say it like that, but each level, I've had a few games where you say, man, where you just know that I've arrived in the high school level, the college level, and the pro level. So I've been at the top of my game and playing at a high level on all three stages. So I got to say, man, I'm thankful for that for sure.
Derrick, what do you remember about the first time you suited up on varsity for Waco High? Do you remember some of the details of that, and what was kind of going through your mind on that night for a young DJ?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I was in the 10th grade. I was scared as hell. You talk about somebody that's, of course, I knew I had ability, but I've always held Waco High football at a high standard, and watching my brother over the years, he's 5 or 6 years older, so I've came up in the ranks and been a fan of the Lions, and then having an opportunity to actually play as a sophomore, which is a big deal back in the day to start on defense. And I just remember just being a student of the game when it came to LaMarcus McDonald. You talk about, and this is my personal opinion, the best linebacker in high school, especially at Waco High, that I've seen just shoot gaps and make so many plays. And I tried to do that too, not at that level in 10th grade, but when I got to 11th and 12th, I was doing the same thing he did.
Derrick, you mentioned your brother Antonio. Did I see you put up some video or retweet his son? Is that his son who's playing now?
Well, yeah, my brother Dwight Johnson is his name, and yeah, he played for under Coach Johnny Tucson, went to Baylor, played in the league for about 5 years or so. His son Dwight Johnson, we call him Junior DJ. Actually, he's a DJ, and he's actually doing really top linebacker in Georgia. So I mean, he's talk about somebody that's a headhunter. He's somebody that I really talk to often, and had an opportunity to coach him up throughout the years, and I've seen him grow so much. So this is his senior year, and he's tearing it up, man. He's really tearing it up.
Derrick Johnson, former All-American at Waco High, also Texas, and in the NFL for many years as a Pro Bowl linebacker with the Kansas City Chiefs here on 365 Sports. Derrick, you played at Texas, obviously, as well. Were there up until the year before they won the national title. You helped set the tone after they were trying to get over the hump against Oklahoma. They finally did. Then they won it all. We know all of that. They have struggled as well in recent years, really almost for a decade. And we hear about culture. Even some of the players discuss that. What have you seen yourself?
Well, you know what? Culture is big. Culture is big, and obviously we want to get back to those glory days, and we will. We just don't know when. But I tell you what, I think Sark and that company coaches are doing a great job by instilling the culture, the old school culture that we had back in the day. Last year was definitely a letdown for us, but I don't think you will see numbers like that anymore. I just know that the Longhorn Texas fan base, we hold the Longhorns to a high standard, and right or wrong, we'll get back to those glory days. But it's all about culture. It's all about culture, and when you think of on a high school level, college level, or pro level, anybody that won a lot of games back to back or a 10-year span, it's all about who you bring in, recruiting players that probably just a little bit better than everybody else. That helps you out, and being that coach that instills and implements a big-time culture and a strong-minded team. And Coach Sark is the guy for the Longhorns right now, and I'm excited to get this season underway and just to see what happens at the end of the day.
How do you, I mean, he mentioned getting the culture right. How is that done effectively from the top down without seeming like, I mean, you don't want to upset the guys who are in good culture, and you don't want to go overboard. It's a tough thing to build chemistry and culture.
Yeah, everybody has a piece of it. Everybody has a piece of it. It's accountability from the ownership, meaning the coaching staff, the head coach from them. And then at the end of the day, it's going to come down to the players, holding each other accountable, making sure that they're responsible for their job, and then doing extra when they can. But everybody needs to play at a high level. And when you have players who are holding each other accountable and being responsible for their own actions on the field, I think you can have a strong nucleus. And you got to get a couple, leaders, obviously, a couple leaders on offense, a couple leaders on defense. And when you can do that, everybody can follow that person, and then it just kind of permeates throughout the whole locker room at the end of the day.
Who are some of those guys at Texas when you first arrived that were part of, instilling that culture and guiding the way?
Yeah, absolutely. You talk about Brett Williams. You talk about Chris Sims, Major Applewhite. I played with some older guys, and then after they left, it was myself, Cedric Benson, Selvin Young. Vince Young. A young Vince Young coming out into his prime. Man, I tell you what, man, we had a bunch of guys that wanted to win. And took it personal. Making sure that, hey, even though the coaches have an expectation for me, the fans have an expectation for me, it's not higher than my expectation of myself. That's the big key when it comes to performing at a high level as a player.
Could you tell early on when Vince Young arrived on campus that he was a freak?
Absolutely. First of all, he's taller than everybody. He's taller than the offensive line. So that's when you know, okay, this guy, he passes the eyeball test immediately. But then at the end of the day, just his ability to throw the deep ball. That's what I saw first, ability to throw the deep ball, and then being able to just run faster than DBs, run faster than everyone. Man, I just knew it was one of those things. And I just wish we were the same age because, he actually, my last year was the Rose Bowl against Michigan, which we had a great year. We only lost one game, but we finished probably 2 or 3. And he was just coming to his own. He's a really great quarterback, but the next year he really, stepped it up one more notch and won a national championship. It's crazy once you think about it. I was 1 year away from winning that championship, and when I retired from the Chiefs in 2019, they won the Super Bowl. So I've been part of building blocks on the college level and the pro level, but it's been fun, needless to say.
Is there anything about you're thrilled? It's your alma mater, Texas. It's for example, obviously the school or the NFL franchise. They retired your jersey. You came back for a day to retire as a Chief. Is there part of that moment that's kind of bittersweet because you're not a part of that moment?
Well, when you say not a part, you're talking about the national championship?
Yeah, the national championship and Super Bowl. You're thrilled for them because you helped, as you said, but is there kind of bittersweet that particular moment at all?
You know what? It is bittersweet, but it's more sweet than anything just because football is the ultimate team game. So if you play football, if you're in it for yourself, you're not going to last long because it's one of those things you can't do it alone. And to actually see those guys I play with and see how happy they are and just the respect they have for just all the blood, sweat, and tears they put into their craft. Man, it's nothing excites me more than seeing my team or my teammates win. I wouldn't want anybody else to win at the end of the day. So it was one of those things where it's bittersweet, but it's more sweet.
Derrick, there's a lot of talent on this Texas team. I know we get tired of probably hearing that every single year. That's the case every single year. But what are your thoughts on some of these offensive guys that people are really looking forward to this season? Xavier Worthy and Bijan, obviously, but also the quarterback and Quinn Ewers. I mean, I'm sure you know as well as anybody, he's getting a lot of attention already. What would be kind of your advice to someone like him who's got a lot of pressure and is stepping into that, but also those guys that are returning as well?
Yeah, well, everybody knows it's not a secret that the record and the performance last year wasn't good enough, not even close to good enough. So there's a chip on everyone's shoulder. There's a chip on head coach's shoulder. There's a chip on everybody's shoulder right now to perform, not to prove it to other people, but to make sure and say, hey, let's hold up this tradition of being a Longhorn, something special. And I really think when you have Quinn as a quarterback, as actually just named the starting quarterback, I think it's a big deal. I think obviously he hasn't had much experience, but it's all about the quarterback position. Whenever you have success, the quarterback position has to be the key. Like that position has to be played well, and I think they're set themselves up for opportunity to have success this year. Obviously, Bijan is a straight killer, and Worthy, a young guy that killed it last year, and actually you talk about speed down the field. That's really going to help stretch the field. And because everybody's going to want to, they're going to want to be up in the box at the end of the day because Bijan is the best running back in the country. But at the end of the day, I'm a defensive guy, and defensively, you're going to have to stop people. I mean, don't get me wrong, we're going to score some points, and we got a smart coaching staff and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, we're going to have to stop some people on defense. We're going to have to, nowadays you can't shut people out, 7-10 points. But if you can hold them to a minimum amount of points and a minimum amount of, especially in the red zone, about scoring defense at the end of the day. It's hard to stop yards. It's RPO stuff, so they can rack up yards, but it's all about scoring defense. So I'm going to be interested in watching the guys like Overshawn and these guys go out there Cook go out there and handle up on defense.
Derrick, if you don't mind me, one more question. If you were playing at Waco High today, and I know that you and Mac Brown, obviously Texas, that's where a lot of guys, they grow up, and that's where they go. But if Dave Aranda was at Baylor, the way he has a defense and the way they play defense, would that have at least made that decision more difficult?
Absolutely. When I was coming out?
Yes, sir.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, my brother went to Baylor. So it's one of those things where I was a Bear fan. I was doing Sick 'em Bears before I was holding up the Longhorn. But I tell you what, it would have been hard just because I've seen a lot. I was in Waco when I was watching my brother play from 95 to 2000. I saw a lot. So when it was time for me to go, I was like, you know what? I'm going to let them, because Baylor was switching coaches every other year.
Yeah.
I mean, Coach Steele, from Dave Roberts. I mean, it was everybody. But I was like, you know what? Let me go to Mac Brown. And I like what he had going on. So that was an opportunity for me to go and make something special, and I did that.
Thank you very much, Derrick, for your time on the opening weekend of the high school season. College even has some games this weekend. You're the best, man. Always enjoyed covering you. Always appreciate you joining the show, and the best of luck. Also, tell everyone the name of your NIL. I saw that you have been doing that. That's a part of college football today. Lord knows what you or Vince Young and others would have made of the NIL back in the day. But if you want to give a little pop to your NIL.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually involved in a couple NIL deals, and I'll be soon. I'll be on social media. I'll be putting certain things out. But right now, I'm just trying to help the young athletes be able to build their brand and connect with fans at the end of the day, and get paid at the end of the day when they can. But the main focus is build their brand and make sure they have a good name at the end of the day. Because, I mean, if I had this opportunity for an NIL deal, I would really take advantage of it. And because it can be there's a lot of pros and cons to it, but there's a lot of pros to being able to be in this NIL day and age. But I'll be just look out on social media. I'll be hosting a few events, but I'll be involved in some NIL deals to help young athletes at Texas make a little money.
Super DJ 56 on Twitter. Derrick Johnson, thank you, sir. Have a great weekend.
All right, you too. Thank you.
Derrick Johnson with us on Sick 'em 365 Radio. We're not going to break here. We're going to have Grace Rayner from theathletic.com, who is who wrote the story, the inside story of the viral Gamecock name of South Carolina. And the quote at the top of this title of the story, "This may get back to the source, which is me." We'll tell you the background story with Grace here momentarily, as South Carolina was trying to come up with a name for the Rooster, and some of the controversy behind the back of what is the story of this? Why are they trying to change the name? Why didn't they just keep the name? And we're about to talk to Grace. In fact, want to say hi to her mom and dad who are listening, Al and Eileen, who asked for a listen live link for Grace Rayner and her segment with us on Sick 'em 365 Radio. Grace, thanks for your time. We appreciate your patience as well. When you were told you were assigned this story, what did you know at the time?
Well, when I was assigned, I knew a little bit about the background of the disagreement over the Rooster and the previous owners and the current owners, and I knew that the internet was absolutely having a field day with a couple of possible names. So I knew that college football was excited about South Carolina's Rooster getting its new name, whatever it was going to be. But there seemed to be a clear front runner for sure.
Yes, there was. Can you tell us the background story of Cock Commander and how that came about?
Yeah, yes, definitely. I didn't know if I was allowed to say Cock Commander on your show. So, okay.
Yeah, we're on the
glad that we
internet.
say that. Glad we can say that.
Yeah.
Okay. So the background is in 2004, South Carolina was about to host Clemson. It was rivalry week, and they had their big bonfire, and everyone was all fired up. And the student newspaper sent a photographer to cover the pep rally, and he came back with an amazing photo. And a page designer with a pretty good sense of humor wrote a caption calling Cocky, South Carolina's mascot, the Cock Commander. and thinking it would, of course, get changed before the paper went to print. And it went to print. The editor caught it at the last second. He called the printers in a panic, claims that everything was good to go, and the next morning, the caption on the front page of the Daily Gamecock still referred to him as Cock Commander. And so that is how it started, and that's kind of how it came back around yesterday as the internet was thinking up new names for this rooster.
So would that in any way be – I mean, they would not go with Cock Commander as the official name, would they?
My guess is no. I mean, I think all of us as college football fans are probably going to call this rooster Cock Commander regardless of what South Carolina ends up picking. But if I mean, look, I don't know. They might decide to lean in. Who knows? But if I was a betting person, I would say they might pick something slightly more family friendly.
Is it the State, the newspaper, that put a poll up and 80 or 79% wanted that name almost immediately? Like the first 3 or 5, 10,000 votes?
Yes, so that's exactly what happened. So the State sports editor was asking his newsroom, hey, we're going to do this poll. We think readers will be excited about it. Does anyone have any nominations? And then another editor who had gone to South Carolina and wrote for the student newspaper and who had heard the Cock Commander story sort of as a cautionary tale about not messing around with the cut lines was like, I don't know if this would be funny or not, but I think we should put Cock Commander on there. And they did, and it got, as you said, 10,000 votes. Last time I checked, the runner-up, I think, had like 600. So the internet spoke loudly in favor of Cock Commander.
Grace Rayner with us, theathletic.com on Sikkim 365 Radio. So this all came down to the original owners of the Rooster or the name or whatever being upset about basically facial hair?
So a lot of local outlets have done some really, really good reporting on it here. So essentially what they've reported is that it comes down to trimming the rooster's comb is I guess the official term or not. The previous owners did not trim it, wanted it to look imposing, like kind of a scary gamecock. The new owners, citing health reasons of the rooster, are trimming it. Previous owners had the trademark to the name. Previously, it was Sir Big Spur. And when they got into this disagreement, based on what I've read from the local reports here, the previous owners were saying, we're not going to renew this and we're not going to sort of grant you use of this name so long as you're still trimming the comb come August 1st. So that's why it's in the news now, was because this started, the expiration of the name was around August 1st.
Is this the most unique story you've ever reported in your career?
Definitely. I mean, I've written college football, right? It's the best for reasons like this. And I've had some fun ones. I wrote about the girl who, I don't know if you guys remember the girl who looked exactly like Trevor Lawrence a couple weeks ago on TikTok.
Yes.
Yep. I wrote about her. But yeah, this is definitely up there, and this is why I love college football so much. I just don't think that you find another sport where the entire internet bands together over the name of a rooster that they're hoping is Cock Commander.
You have covered Clemson extensively, and obviously they've had the great run with Dabo, Trevor Lawrence. You mentioned him as well. The Tigers last year were really, really, really good on defense, but obviously their offense struggled, and now they have the incoming quarterback battle in a way. But your thoughts about how they bounced back, so to speak, even though they had a very good year that most college programs would love to have?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think you hit it right there. It starts with their quarterback. I think that, and we were kind of talking about this at The Athletic last week, I think a lot of times in college football, things are not very black and white. There's a lot of gray area in college football, but this year with Clemson, I think it's really simple. If their quarterback play gets better, I think they get to the playoff again. And if it's not better, I think they miss out again. And so they're definitely in a better situation than they were last year. They just have more depth. Cade Klubnik, obviously a Texas guy. Y'all are familiar with him, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. He came in as an early enrollee, really impressed. So I think that there's a healthy there's a healthy option in the event that DJ struggles again and doesn't have the year that they're expecting him to. So I think they believe in him and they want him to get the job done, and they think he can, but they're definitely in a better situation knowing they do have a Klubnik waiting and presumably ready to go.
Yeah, he's a very good player from Westlake High School as well. Grace, it's been an off and on roller coaster of so much in college football that's really not even a part of the games or so. Are you just happy that games are starting to be played? I think most everyone who covers college football is just hoping to get to the games and the wins and the losses and whatever else.
Totally. I mean, there's been so much change in college football, and so I think we're all excited to, like you said, just see some games. And I'm not going to lie, Cock Commander sort of renewed my excitement for the season, because this is just, this is our sport that we love, and it is changing a lot, but we will always have the zaniness of these types of moments in college football.
Thank you so much, Grace, and have a great weekend. We appreciate your time.
Thank you all so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. She was very patient with us. Thank you to Grace on the show. That story, if you haven't read it, it's hilarious. There was also one that was by Paul. I contacted him, Holloway, with the State. He actually wrote a piece on it, but somebody else did a lot of the work. And then Grace Rayner in the story she had with theathletic.com.
Look, there's already a fraternity that is printing T-shirts, I'm sure.
Oh, you have? Yes, or a hat, or...
And
how many banners might try to be?
Look, I'm not proud of the amount of lewd T-shirts I had when particularly Miami came into town.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty easy to make a shirt for that one, considering that their logo is a U. So there was a lot of things in different styles that for $10.
As bad as maybe Notre Dame in Miami when they had the Catholics versus the convicts type stuff?
It was, worse.
In that neighborhood?
There's also one that this frat made that spelled out F, but you couldn't read.
Florida?
It looked like it was Russian.
Oh.
And then if you folded the shirt up, like halfway, you could read it.
Craig went to a Florida State game. Craig, who'd they play when you went with your cousin?
They went to play Florida.
They played Florida. And that's just a great place, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. When we come back, Grayson Grundhafer, SicEm365.com's our recruiting analyst, and he'll join us. Also, Jaren McVay, the McPlay from that Big 12 championship game. He was a part of the LA Rams. Their camp, no longer a part of the Rams. He was a part of a recent cut, but what's he doing now? And his thoughts about being in an NFL camp. And every day he's known as the guy that made the play to help Baylor win the Big 12 championship. SicEm 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Cars priced right, day and night. Average your car, Texas. Trucks built for you.
Edward Jones, financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. Why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Van Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Did you know the average American pays over $500 a month for their car payment? What would you do if you didn't have to make that payment for 90 days? Where else could you use $1,500? Keep your car payments at Genco. Buy new or refinance your current vehicle and have no payments for 90 days. Take advantage of our low rates and no payments for 90 days. Only at Genco. Subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies insured by NCUA.
It's summertime. There's picnics, reunions, cookouts, and so much to do. And Waco Custom Marketplace on Lake Air Drive in Waco is your home for the butcher shop that can help you with beef, pork, poultry, and seafood. They are spectacular in being able to deliver you whatever cut of steak you want. Bone-in ribeye, however thick you want it, that's great. They'll do it. Sirloin, T-bone, porterhouse, bacon wrap filet. And of course, as I mentioned, they have pork, poultry, and seafood. Their Norwegian salmon is spectacular. Also, all of the sauces and seasonings you'll ever need, all the ingredients you'll ever need to make sure you have that perfect, flawless taste. So it's delicious whenever you take something off the grill. And a full-fledged bakery as well with fresh baked bread and kolaches every single day. Up and down the aisle of Waco Custom Marketplace, you also have what you need from knickknacks to snacks to more at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, Waco Custom Marketplace.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one, commercial, farm and ranch, or residential. Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with Grayson Grundhafer of Sikkim365.com. Brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
Grayson Grundhafer, Sikkim 365 Radio, joins us now. And if you're watching on YouTube, I really hope that we have those audio issues fixed for you. Week 1 in high school football, there's always something. We got some we have new equipment in the studio that has changed everything that we know about what we have. But now we know, and I think we've got it fixed. So,
Grayson Grundhafer joins us, Sikkim 365 Radio recruiting analyst. And Grayson, the high school season has begun, and obviously a great time of the year. I saw when you had a note up in the premium section about the 10 most important, 10 list of 2024. It never ends, right? You're always, no matter what program you're working on, what you have, what you need, and what you need in the future.
Yeah, definitely. I think that this is an important time, right? Because they've been on dead period since the start of fall camp. So really it's been August 1st till now. September 1st, you'll start to see contact being allowed by the staff with 2024 prospects. So currently 2024 prospects can reach out to the staff, but now after September 1st at midnight, you're going to see the staff start contacting more recruits. You'll see a ton of graphics that day on Twitter as well from different programs sending out, letters and different things like that. So I felt like it was a really good because, right now there's tons of 2024 prospects that are on Baylor's radar. But I was trying to narrow the focus a little bit, just to about 10 guys that, they've been talking to for a long time and that they built really good relationships with. And of course, the first one that I named was Jaden Porter, the wide receiver out of Florida, because he's the only commit in that class, and he's a very important one because, as we've known, this Baylor staff is very focused on when they get a commit, they want to keep that commit throughout. And I think Jaden, being a Central Texas kid, a guy who is a 4-star caliber talent, it's really important. So I listed a few other guys I thought it'd be a fun story, and I think overall it probably gave people a better sense of kind of where things are at right now with Baylor in the 2024 class, as the trajectory for that class is very, very high.
Grayson, no, it's a little bit too early in the sense of guys declaring for the draft, and we don't know how all that will shake out. But looking at that roster, where do you see some of the focus being early on for 2024?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was kind of thinking about this the other day because, it's one of those interesting times, right? Because if you look at last year's class, they loaded up on the offensive line. But this year's class, they still loaded up on the offensive line again. And a lot of their momentum early was 2024 class is on the offensive line. So I felt like that was an area that it's very interesting how they're going about approaching that position. It's almost as if, you can never have enough, which makes total sense. But also it's like, some of these guys are going to want to play, right? So the 2024 class, I think, will be heavy on the offensive line, probably 3 or 4 guys. They're probably going to take their time, though, in that class, trying to make sure they get really high caliber guys on the offensive line. The defensive line was a major focus in this class. I think it'll be less of a focus in the next one. I think they'll probably take, they'll probably still take 2 or 3, but a little bit less of a focus there. And I think immediately the wide receiver position will have more of a focus next year because currently they only have 1 commit at wide receiver in this year's class, which is Micah Gifford. So there's a lot of different ways they can go about it. I think a lot of it will have to do with roster turnover and also how many guys they want to take in the transfer portal, because that, new thing has become huge, right? Because you want to fill in your class with some older guys as well who can contribute early. So there's a lot of factors that go into it, but I think you look at the offensive line, you look at cornerback, even running back and wide receiver, I think will be positions they target heavily.
So who does Austin Novosad? Dripping Springs plays somebody pretty good, a pretty decent named team, if I remember looking at the schedule last night.
Yeah, they play Vandegrift.
Yeah.
Some very talented guys. They got Ian Reed, who's committed to Clemson right now. They have a really good quarterback as well, who I believe is committed to Vanderbilt. Don't quote me on that, but I think he's committed to Vanderbilt. So they're going to be pushed. But honestly, this is what Austin's been preparing for. And Dripping Springs in general, because they're moving up from 5A to 6A, they're going to get pushed. And they're going to have to play in a really, really competitive district. But kind of what my general thoughts on, that team's going to be able to score points. With Austin and the weapons that they have, they're going to score a lot of points. They are missing Kyle Koch, who is one of their best receivers who got hurt in the offseason. So when they get him back, they'll be full go. But when you have the kind of talent that they have, with Austin at quarterback and the guys that they have around him, they've surrounded him with enough talent that they're going to be able to score on pretty much anyone. It's just a matter of how many games can you win in the new district. It's a huge step up. The defense is going to get tested, and the offensive line is going to get tested. So I'm very curious to see how they do. And like you said, they have a great test. Vandegrift is a very good program in the Austin area.
Well, they're in the same, on the schedule, not in the same district, but on the schedule. We'll see them in week 3 at Mary Hardin Baylor at UMHB when they play Midway. So a good chance to see what they have. And they have a guy that's all sorts of good talent on that team as well. Is there somebody that you, and I, again, it's kind of a fine line, but someone that might be committed elsewhere that Baylor would still want if they change their mind that might be on your radar? Anyone in particular that not imminent, but maybe there?
Yeah, I think we're going to find out more of that on September 1st because, it's really going to be important to see who they contact early, because I think that really solidifies things a little bit more. I would have told you LaGrange, defensive back Ravion Rogers, but he already decommitted from A&M. I think it was like a week and a half ago. So he's kind of, he's not committed somewhere else currently. But I think he'd be a name to keep an eye on. I know LSU is in a great position with him currently, but I think Baylor's definitely interested there. I've mentioned Isaiah Crawford before, the post outside linebacker. He's committed to Tech. They haven't had a lot of contact with him recently, but again, it's really hard to gauge the interest when, Baylor can't really reach out to them. So I think we will know more probably in the next week or 2. But those are 2 guys that have kind of been on my radar for a while as far as, Baylor still really wants to kind of see what's going on there and see if there's interest, and probably during the season, maybe get those guys on a visit. I know Crawford was one specifically who at one point had an official visit that he was going to take during the summer. They decided to wait on that until the fall. So I still think he'll take one, but it's a little more up in the air now as there's still some time to go before that visit actually takes place.
Grayson, when can players visit games? When is the that open up for them?
Yeah, so it will open up game 1. You can invite guys to game 1. I think Baylor will probably wait. I kind of have this hunch, just looking at how the schedule plays out, that October 1st game against Oklahoma State, I have a feeling that's going to be a huge recruiting weekend. Just looking at how the schedule plays out, their first 2 games at home are Albany and Texas State. I just kind of get the sense that Baylor's probably going to want to wait until some of their marquee games. And unfortunately, they don't have as many this year. They don't have Oklahoma and Texas on the schedule at home. So you're kind of banking on, that Oklahoma State game. And then, of course, probably the TCU game a little bit later in the year. It's kind of your marquee matchup. You're going to have a lot of potential visitors. But it does open up game 1. You'll probably see commits at the first game. I don't think they're going to have a ton of uncommitted guys at game number 1.
We are going to, and we had done this earlier in the summer before Big 12 Media Days, our Big 12 predictions as far as 1 through 10. What are your top 5 teams entering the season in order, 1 through 5, if you don't mind? I'm not putting you on the spot, but I'm sure you have that anyway.
Yeah, I do. So I actually did my prediction past week. I kind of sat down and I went through and kind of figured out how I felt like the season was going to go. And so for me, I think it's going to be Baylor versus Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship. I think both teams are going to go 10-2 this year. And I have Oklahoma State at 9-3. So for me, those are the top 3 teams in the conference. I think it's going to be the same as last year. And if you remember last year, all 3 of those teams had 10 wins. Oklahoma State had 11 wins, but they all 3 got that double-digit point before the postseason. So I think those 3 are still my top 3 in the conference. And then you come down from that, and there's another tier for me of teams. And I think that's where you're going to have Kansas State at 4. I think they're probably the most likely to go 8-4. Maybe even challenge for 9-3, but their schedule doesn't really shape out very well. Like, I know there are a lot of people's dark horse, but I don't really love their schedule. The fact that they have to go to Baylor and to Oklahoma makes them a team that I'm not too high on as far as actually winning the conference, even though I do think they'll be really good. And then my 5th team is where things get a little dicey in my eyes, because I think there's going to be a battle there between West Virginia and Texas for that 5th spot. I have both teams going right around that 7-5 mark. But right now, I think I would go with Texas going 7-5 and West Virginia going 6-6. And I think you'll have a couple other teams that hover around 6-6, like Iowa State. I think they'll make a bowl. I think TCU might be close to making a bowl as well at 6-6. But those would be my 5. I think my 5th team would probably be Texas at this point, just based on the record.
Thank you, Grayson. Appreciate it. High school football has started. Recruiting never ends. Baylor, Albany next week. We'll, of course, have full throttle coverage of that starting on Monday. In fact, a conversation with Baylor head coach Dave Aranda on Monday's show as well. When we come back, Jaren McVay, what a play, the muck play. His thoughts about his time with the Rams in an NFL camp, and also what's up next for him on SicEm 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
If you're out looking for a great selection of new cars and trucks, then shop Allen Samuels in Waco, because we have some of the best deals in Central Texas that will put you in a new vehicle and driving away with confidence. During the Labor Day sales event, you can take your pick, a new 2022 Dodge Charger or Dodge Challenger, and receive 0% for 72 months and no payments for 90 days. If you're a first responder, you get an extra $500 off your purchase. High-quality vehicles from a dealership with a hometown feel. Allen Samuels in Waco.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarships and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who, as children, had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old, and they come every 6 months, and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here They're used to lights. They're used to water in their mouth. They're used to experience. They already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive to North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like mortgage lending, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Corral on 2nd and 15 as they're chopping down on his legs, and then they take him down high as well. Ika finished it.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
He made the play, the dynamic game ending, although there was still one more snap for Baylor to take against Oklahoma State to win the Big 12 championship. But Jaren McVay, the McClay, as famous a play in Baylor football history, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. And he was in Waco, in fact, this week, going to start working back on his master's degree. Jaren, we're with Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina. I'm David Smoak. Thank you very much for your time. So you told me earlier this week you were like, what, one class, I guess, or was it 1 point away from your master's degree?
Yeah, I'm 1 credit hour away from my master's right now. I have to defend my thesis in the geology department. So I have a great advisor, Dr. Joe Yelderman. He's going to help me finish this thing off, and hopefully I can graduate in December.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, Jaren, I wanted to ask you this, and I loaded up the play so you can hear it. This is what, people on television heard. We were in the press box. We were just kind of sitting, gobsmacked at everything that was going on. But I want to know your reaction to hearing this highlight.
Man, chill. That's the first thing that I feel, man. Every time I see that clip on Twitter or anywhere on the internet, my heart starts beating fast. It's almost like I'm there again, It's a great play. I'm just thankful I can make that play for my teammates and coaches and all of Baylor Nation. So, man, chills hearing that again.
Jared, how did that change your life in some ways? I mean, not like, you became a millionaire because of that play or, anything like that. But, I mean, just the amount of attention that you received after the fact and the recognition. And, I mean, what was that like in the aftermath of that game, the amount of people, I'm sure, that congratulated you in some form or fashion?
Yeah, I would say it changed my life, man. Everyone who's seen that play and knows me is just excited when they see me and always coming up to me like, how'd you do it? Or what were you thinking? Even whenever I was with the Rams, coaches would come up to me, man, that was the greatest play I've seen. It was crazy. So I say it has changed my life for the better. And I'm just thankful for Baylor Nation and, everyone who supported me along the way to get there.
Did you think you'd made it when you did? Like, was your first, what did you know? Because obviously you're behind him. You can't really see where he landed.
Yeah, if you watch the video closely, you can kind of see my helmet is cocked toward the pylon. I actually saw him miss the pylon with the split second that I was in the air, and then I kind of rolled over. And then I kind of looked up, and the next thing I saw was the official making the sign that wasn't a touchdown, and that's when I knew for sure that he didn't make it. So, man.
Do you ever fall asleep at night and he actually did score?
No, I've not had that thing.
I've seen a lot of Baylor fans say every time they watch it, they're like waiting for the ball to touch the pylon. It's like it was such a dramatic play. I was going to ask you this, and I should have asked you this even back in January or after the game. What if he would have stopped and cut back? Were you still in pretty good position, the leverage to make that play?
Yeah, I think I was in perfect position. If he would have stopped and cut back, he would have been tackled, even further from the pylon than that. So I think he knew he had to make a dive at the pylon and just kind of, I guess he kind of dived past. I got a little piece of him, but he knew that he had to dive to the pylon because I was right there and I was gaining ground on him.
Did you tug just a notch of his collar? Just enough?
I don't know. It has to be some complex physics equations. I did tug his collar just a little bit. Maybe that redirected him outside the pylon. I have no idea, but I did get a piece of him, just the smallest of pieces. So I don't know what that grand equation is, but it was just enough to make him miss.
What was the experience like, even though I know that it wasn't, a long time, but being with the Super Bowl champions in camp?
Oh, man, amazing. Those guys, the professionals up there, the coaching is just top notch. I mean, they were Super Bowl champs for a reason, and every level of that organization is just top notch. Everyone there was great. It was a great experience.
So, Jaren, did you anticipate that you were going to get an undrafted free agent deal? I mean, did you anticipate that throughout the draft, the combine, and that whole process that you were going to get a little bit of time, or was that, almost a pleasant surprise in some way?
I'd say it was a pleasant surprise. I've always dreamed of making it to the NFL, and playing in those 2 preseason games was amazing, man. Making plays. They even shouted out the McVay in one of those games, which was crazy to me. But yeah, I knew that I wanted to be a free agent, but once I got that call, it was kind of a surprise and a relief to me.
What was the moment like? Because obviously they brought you in for a reason, and then it's a business. What was that day like for you? What was said to you, and what did you say to the Rams?
Man, I said thank you. They brought me in, and Coach McVay and let me talk to me and said I did a great job up there. They just had to get rid of me because of numbers. They had so many young safeties, but they said that they thought I could play in the league. So that was a great thing hearing from, the head coach and the general manager. So it was just really a good experience all around.
Our partners, Brian Etheridge, Colt Barber, Ashley Hodge, and of course, a lot of the members of Sikkim 365, the website, you had that signature series, and those things, that collective is fantastic. I mean, it's beautifully done. Your signature was on hundreds or a few thousand of them. What did that mean to you to have that in your name, basically, in that moment?
Oh man, I was so thankful for Sikkim 365 putting that together. First off, and every time I see one of those pictures or I see a tweet of people thankful, or that their present came in the mail, or that they were able to get that picture for a Baylor fan they loved, man, I'm just excited and happy for them, and I'm happy I can make that play for them, man.
This is kind of, people are talking in the chat room. TJ Harris, one of it's an Oklahoma State fan, and he is, we've given him indigestion by playing again. But do you feel that because of that game and because of the way the Big 12 will be completely new in the next couple of years, that might have kicked off even a hotter rivalry between you guys and Oklahoma State?
Yeah, I'm sure it has. Sure. Those guys are chopping at the bit to try to get another piece of Baylor, and I know our guys have been training and working hard to, defend what we did last season. So I know that the rivalry is probably bigger than what it was before that play.
Jaren, I mean, from back when you start, you've seen various eras of Baylor football, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I mean, literally. And to know where you started as a walk-on, playing in that game against Liberty, and then all the way to the very end and playing in a Sugar Bowl and beating Ole Miss to win a championship. I mean, what a roller coaster. I don't even know what my question is so much as just is it hard to kind of wrap your head around what the last 5-6 years has been like?
Yeah, it really is, man. Like you said, it's been a roller coaster, ups and downs. 1-11 to the greatest season in Baylor history. That's kind of crazy to think about, and be a part of that. All that history is just an amazing feeling, and I'm thankful for the ups and downs that Baylor has brought to me, and all the lessons I've learned, and the people that I've met here. So it's been a great ride.
So you want to get that master's for obvious reasons, defend your thesis, but what if somebody else calls you?
Oh man, I'm gone. And Dr. Joe, my advisor, he's really supportive of my dreams. He knows that if I do get a call, that I can come back at any time, and I'm dedicated on finishing that. He's taking great care of me, so I know that even if I go and get another chance, that I'm going to come back and finish my degree for my parents and myself, and for him also, because he's taken a big role in my education. So I'm thankful for that.
What are your early on career goals outside of football?
Once I get this degree, hopefully work somewhere in Houston with my geology degree and my geology master's. So that should really take off for me once I finish this last little part of my education.
Jaren, there's a lot of leagues out there now. Are you still interested in playing just football, period? Let's say if the XFL opportunity arises, or is it kind of NFL or career in your mind?
Yeah, it's more NFL or career. If I don't get that call to my agent, I'm happy with going into the workforce with my geology degree, and finding a way to help whatever company I go to.
Geology degree, as in getting into the oil business?
Yeah, that could be a possibility. I'm not sure exactly what I want to do with it, but I like that idea, and geographic information systems. I took a couple classes with that, and I really enjoyed that aspect of my degree. So, my options are open.
You, in your time with the Rams, it's not like you were just there as a body. It was a numbers game. It's a business. We mentioned this, but I just got a text from your father, Danny. He had 5 or 6 tackles in a couple of quarters of game time. So you had success. I bet somebody will see that on tape.
Yeah, I did have quite a bit of tackles. It was a great experience, and being out there on the NFL stage, man, was just amazing. So, yeah, I had success, and I'm thankful for the Rams for bringing me in and letting me, show off some talent.
I'm glad that you weren't at Rams practice yesterday, because Aaron Donald and Lyle Collins got into a fight, and Aaron Donald had helmets in both hands just whacking away at people. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that on Twitter, man. It's crazy.
I mean, automatically I thought I would really rather be on the Rams right now.
Yeah. I don't think he knew who was hitting.
Yeah, but of all the guys that would get mad, that's the one I wouldn't want to. But yeah, you got to meet some person. I mean, Jalen Ramsey, a huge personality. You got to work with him directly. What was that like?
And he's a great guy. He's a great competitor and extremely skilled and knowledgeable about their defense, man. Being in the room with him was great, and I got to learn from him and got to see how he operates. And those are skills you can take and use for yourself. So yeah, being around the greats like Jalen Ramsey, Cooper Kupp, and Aaron Donald were just great to see how those guys operate. The best of their position, best of their craft.
Was that fun running into? Because I believe your last game was against the Texans, right?
Mm-hmm.
That fun?
Yeah, I saw Petey.
Yeah. I was gonna say I saw Petrie, and they got Graylin Arnold over there as well. I mean, was that cool running into those guys?
Yeah, it was great seeing them. Just getting their dreams come true and getting to shake their hand on the field was great, man. We were both smiling, all three of us.
That Twitter picture of the three of you got a bunch of attention because so much popularity among those particular names, faces, and what you guys brought to the table. I'm not sure if you read this or not, but the Heartland, Matthew Postins wrote an article, and it kind of got into the last play to stop the McPlay. So it's kind of eliminating really that when maybe stuff is kind of going crazy and all of it, the one guy that always has kind of been there, that guy was the guy. So I'm thankful for that. Talking about you, if there was a door to be opened, Jaren opened it. If it was trash in the ground, he would pick it up. If a meeting started at 8, he was there at 7:50. If it was 8, he's there with a pencil and his paper open. He's always been that guy. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, just knowing that is seen and that rubs off on people is just great to know. I always try to do my best in anything I do and everything I do. That's kind of what's been instilled in me between my parents and the coaching that I've had. So it's just good to know that's seen and other people see it and it rubs off on people around me. So it's great to hear.
Jaren, I know you got to run here pretty soon, but just what do you feel like the state of Baylor football is? I mean, you get and the rest of your guys like Graylin, for example, and obviously Petey and Terrell and JT and various others. You guys definitely left it better than you found it ultimately in the long run. Just what do you think about the state of Baylor football, and how do you feel about Dave Aranda, having gotten to know him the past couple of years and seeing the turnaround that the program's made underneath him?
Yeah, I'm feeling great about it, man. I'm excited. I know all those young guys are just ready to do their thing, man. I'm super excited, and I know the state of Baylor football is in a great place with Coach Aranda and all of his assistant coaches and the players who are there who make up the culture. Everyone in that locker room is headed in the right direction. I know they're on the same wavelength, and I know they want to win games, man. So I can't wait to watch them. I can't wait to see what they do this year.
So if a young athlete in high school or a young player in college, and it's the off-season conditioning, which of course can be brutal and test you as much mentally as physically, and you're pushing weights from one sideline to the other, or you're doing all you're doing. In the end, after all of what you'd been through with strength and conditioning, everything, and then you make that play, can you try to describe that to a young athlete who's like, this isn't worth it? This is crazy. How much all of that may have led to that one extra inch that you were able to stop a play?
Yeah, I just tell them that that's just an example of showing that everything counts. Everything you do, every extra piece of film you watch, every extra weight you do, every extra rep you do, everything you do counts, and anything you miss counts, and you can't usually add that up into an actual value, but I feel like that play shows that there is a value to those things you do, to being 10 minutes early to a meeting, to, showing love to your teammates, to hanging out with your coaches, even after the meeting. Everything has, it sums up, and that play, I feel like, has all those things coming to fruition. So that's what I tell those players, and I try to show them that everything does count. It's not just something people say. It does add up in the end.
You have a future, no question, in geology with that degree, a master's, and whatever you do with it. And of course, if the NFL calls, that's fantastic. But you have set yourself up for success, and that's not a surprise. Jaren, we appreciate you very, very much. Great to have you on the show, and enjoy the upcoming, college football season, watching Baylor, and hopefully you do get another call. We appreciate your time.
Sir, thank y'all so much. Thank you, Stick'em 365.
You too, Jaren McVay. Brian Etheridge, I'll never forget one time walking in the studio on a weekend, and they had boxes and boxes and boxes. Paul and Craig, what would you call those? They're heavy.
The little metal signs.
Yeah, and they were with the picture, the play that was superimposed on the product. And then he sat there and signed one after another, after another, after another. And I got a call. In fact, Shane Anderson, they were going to have a coaches regional meeting. And so they wanted to have some things they could give to coaches, goodie bags, whatever, and then maybe a few things that they drew for a raffle, whatever. And I said, listen, I've got an extra copy of the McPlay on this piece, on this product. And I didn't know what he was going to say. He said that was one of the most popular items, that when they listed that everyone wanted to be a part of that. Even maybe, I'm not sure about an Oklahoma State fan, but it was something that did have a little bit of value, no question.
Yeah, every school has a guy like Jaren who's made a play that they will remember forever, right? And Jaren, maybe he gets a shot, maybe he doesn't. It wasn't Jalen Petrie, who we know, is his career in the NFL is a bullet. It was a guy who was a part of the team for so long, who was heart and soul of that team because of what they did and be remembered forever. And, you can there's just name your school. You've got a guy who made that play. You know, Nebraska's got Matt Davison, right? You know, and now he's synonymous.
Assistant AD for them in the
exactly.
broadcast with with that play that helped them stay undefeated, win a national championship with Scott Frost, the quarterback.
And I think it's, even a little bit deeper than that. I mean, it's a guy who joined the team as a walk-on in 2016 in the midst of just all hell having broken loose. And Jim Grobe, suddenly his head coach, and he came to play for Bryles like everybody else had. And all of a sudden it's Jim Grobe, and then Jim Grobe's gone. Here's Matt Rule. Oh, Matt Rule's gone. Here's, and like, not only is Matt Rule here all of a sudden after all that, and he's just some, walk-on freshman, sophomore-ish type player at that point, or I guess you have like a redshirt freshman maybe. But he starts the very first game Rule coaches, plays against Liberty as like a redshirt freshman, starts as safety, I believe, and they lose to Liberty, like the lowest of lows. Not only to Liberty, the former AD on the Liberty sidelines. Like, it was at home to start this new. It was like the bottom of the bottom.
It was, holy crap, what is going to be the next few years?
And he started that game because they had so little depth. They had to resort to, a walk-on player to start at safety for them. And it was an embarrassing time for sure. But, he was one that answered the call. And I remember back then Rule saying, as they kind of kept progressing, that, McVay was a scholarship type guy and was deserving of that and was just one of their better athletes. And he was really high on him. He was really high on him early on. And we know that you can say whatever you want to about Matt Rule, because I know some people always harbor ill will because he didn't stay for 10 years. He promised, that kind of thing. And whatever, but he made huge contributions, and the man could scout talent. Like, there's no denying that they could spot talent, that staff. And you see a lot of the JT Woods, Treston Ebner, Jalen Petrie, all those guys were Rule recruits that they got towards the end of that cycle. But yeah, I mean, he spotted Petrie, and he knew he was going to be McVay, and knew he was going to be good. And sure enough, like 3 years later, there he is in the biggest game that they played in up until that point, the biggest win that they've had in a long time, and it led to, a massive bowl win as well. So Jaren McVay is a legend in Baylor football history for sure.
You wonder if he doesn't make the play. And again, there's no time limit.
I didn't think he was going to.
We were on the other end of the field, in the press box, and it looked like he was going to turn the corner. So Jaren McVay, who's the one we call him, get him on to talk about him. Man, that was great. Thank you for having me on. Yeah. That's the kind of guy that he is. All right.
Hire him in the oil business.
When we come back, Taylor McCart on college football from ESPN, college football analyst. We're live at Panther Stadium, midway for high school football tonight. Our broadcast is 6:30. This is 365 Sports.
How is it in a hot summer? You could fry an egg in the bed of a pickup truck. Jay here from Pickup Outfitters here to give you a little heat relief and some protection for your poor truck bed. August is bed cover month at Pickup Outfitters, and we're making it easy for you to cover up that hot bed on your truck with discounts of up to $200, plus matching rebates of up to $200, and double your warranty on many of those covers. That's up to $400 in discounts and rebates, plus double your warranty on bed covers at Pickup Outfitters. And you get our famous lifetime installation guarantee and free warranty assistance, which makes for a worry-free purchase. When's the last time you could say that about your bed, a truck bed? Get your poor bed some heat relief with a brand new bed cover, including name brands like Backflip, Undercover, X-Tang, Retract, Roll and Lock, and Truxedo. Up to $400 in discounts and rebates with double your warranty. It's only at Pickup Outfitters, 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Did you know that Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a partner of the city of Waco? Did you know that we are open to the public? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers day passes to the public for only $10 a day, and we offer money-saving memberships. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including bar, yoga, boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. There are free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, elliptical machines, and much more on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training available where you can be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. 17 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Waco's premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit our website at wacotennis.com. Call us at 254-753-7675 or visit us next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Brad Boozer Jeweler joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. I've seen people walk in there. First of all, you have so much to show, whether necklaces, bracelets, rings. You have the watches. You have numerous great watches as well. You really have pretty much everything, don't you, when it comes to jewelry?
That's correct. Kind of a one-stop shop and all. And the fact that we have the 2 jewelers on staff, the repairs we can do, the fixing of your jewelry, and the remaking of any jewelry has really set us apart from anybody else.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 super fan? That's our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
Taylor McCarthy's ESPN college football analyst and joins us on Fridays at 4:30 to look ahead to the weekend, the games he'll have as well a piece of on the television. Joins us on 365 Sports. Taylor, it finally kicks off. What are your thoughts about the Nebraska Northwestern games, 11:30 kick tomorrow? We've focused in on that a little bit in a couple other games, UTEP and UNT. To have that kind of a long trip to open up the year, what kind of challenge is that for 2 teams that desperately need to win?
Yeah, I still don't really know how I feel about it as a conference game. Rice a few years ago went to Australia to play Stanford, and I think if it's out of conference, it's treat that a little bit different. But especially for Scott Frost in Nebraska, they need very badly to go to a bowl game, or he's likely out there. So right off the bat, if you remember last year, Nebraska dropped a week 0 game to Illinois and set off their season a 3-9 record. So I don't love that. I would not love it as a player or a coach to have to fly across the pond for a conference game, but for a viewer, it's great. I mean, we have 11 a.m. kick for a Big Ten game in Dublin. I think it's super entertaining, but as a player, I probably wouldn't love it.
How hard is it when you are? I mean, like North Carolina's playing Florida A&M, FSU's playing Duquesne, and some of these teams that are not playing the big games to get up for those, knowing that those are tune-up games because you've got a big one in week 1.
Yeah, I think if it's a mature team, especially for like a Florida State, who the following week they got to go play LSU. So this is a big game for them, and it is a tune-up where you want to come out and you're not going to show a lot of wrinkles, offense and defensive side of the ball in a game like that. You're going to run your base offense and base defense. But every now and then you'll see a team, it's not uncommon for one of these games against a team that they're much better than like an FCS opponent, where they sleepwalk through the first half. And those are the kind of things that you want to avoid if you're heavily favored. You want to come out, be sharp, operate your offense and defense well, win by a few scores, get your backups in, and especially for schools. Next week I've got Texas Tech and Murray State. Texas Tech wants to get out to an early big lead so they can get all 3 of their quarterbacks in. You want to get these guys reps. But if you're struggling and this game's close, that's the worst thing that can happen. And I'll say one more thing. State lost to Jacksonville State last year on that Hail Mary. So they're really not in a position to sleepwalk. They need to come out against Duquesne and play well and get on them early.
You remember that game, Paul?
Yes. Very traumatic for me. Yeah.
Taylor, going back to Nebraska, Casey Thompson takes over the reins now after Adrian Martinez, moves on to Manhattan. Obviously there's a incredible amount of pressure on Scott Frost. He goes and gets Thompson, gets O'Shawn Mathis in the offseason as well. But in particular with Thompson, that offense, what do you anticipate seeing? What does he bring to the table, so to speak, for the Huskers, and what maybe looks differently for fans watching?
Well, I think the biggest thing that killed Nebraska last year was untimely turnovers, and they lost so many of their games late where they were in control. And I think that's something that you'll see improvement with Casey Thompson, where Casey Thompson doesn't have a real high ceiling, but he's also, more often than not, he's not going to get you beat. He's not going to put the whole team on his back and go get you a win. If it's, if you're playing you're playing an Ohio State or you're playing a Wisconsin, he's not going to put the team on your back and go get you a win single-handedly. He's not that kind of talent. But he's also not going to give a game away late in the way that they had problems with last year. So I think this was a good fit for him, a fresh start for him. And for Nebraska, I know I said they were 3-9 last year, but we joked around last week on the show, it was the best 3-9 team in the country and really could have been a bowl team. So I think their win total, Vegas has them at 7.5 this year. So expect a much improved Cornhusker team. And I would expect Casey Thompson to play well for them and at a minimum get them to the postseason.
Okay, so Paul, in a matter of 8 to 10 minutes, our great friend Taylor McCarthy again has mentioned Florida State and Jacksonville State, and I'm a lifelong Huskers fan that never thought in my lifetime, although you're right, today I would say 7.5 wins, I'll take it. Never thought that would ever show up in my lifetime, and I will take anything, quite frankly, no matter who they beat.
Yeah, and I think Texas fans feel the same way, right? Every now and then, a USC, there are marquee programs that go down for a while, and it takes a little bit of a reset of expectations for programs that want the quick fix, get a new hire. Everybody thought Scott Frost was going to come in, rejuvenate the program, get you to 10 wins straight away, but it just doesn't work like that. And recruiting, I know you guys know this better than anybody, but recruiting takes time. It's very rare to turn over in the season or two and get back to double-digit wins. But for Nebraska, for USC, for Texas, even for Miami, getting to 8-9 wins and having that consistently, you have to, crawl before you walk, right? That way you get back to the double digits, and then you have an outside chance at playing for your conference championships. But college football is riddled with fan bases that just have unrealistic expectations that think that you get one new hire and one new good recruiting class, and okay, next year's the year, we're going to be battling for the Final Four. It just doesn't work like that. Look at how long it took Georgia to be able to consistently compete with Alabama in the SEC. And it took years for Kirby Smart to have multiple recruiting classes at a high level where they could finally get over the hump and beat them.
Yeah, and that was an interesting situation because they had Mark Richt before that. And it's not like Mark Richt was a bad coach. He was a really, really good coach, but he could not get that team to the level they needed to be. He had a ceiling above them.
No, you're exactly right. But college football really comes down to one simple piece, and it's you got to be a fanatic recruiter. And that's what Urban Meyer was notorious for. As soon as he got to Ohio State, he was pissing off coaches around the Big Ten immediately, going after their committed guys, going after their firm committed guys, and telling his assistant coaches if they say no, you go back to them in a month and you just stay on them. And that's what Kirby Smart really has brought to Georgia, where it's nonstop. And the guys that do it at the highest level, they recruit nonstop. And out of Austin, where I'm based, that's some of what you hear right now under Steve Sarkisian, and I think you're seeing that with the results that they've had, obviously headlined by Arch Manning, but down the line with feels like there was a stretch there in the summer where almost every other day there were 4 or 5 stars committing to Texas. And that's what it takes. And there are some staff that just don't have that in them. They're not going to be fanatical about their recruiting approach. But that's what you need. And that's Lincoln Riley's pretty good at that too. And he's more on the offensive side. But if you don't have that piece, you've got no shot to compete at the highest level of college football.
Who do you think of the coaches, and there were so many this year that moved to a different program, who do you think among the ones of the programs that lost somebody might be the one that suffers the most?
Well, I'm interested to see what TCU looks like this year. I think there's a chance at SMU, under Sonny Dykes, and really when he was at Cal as well, they were really a front runner. And if they were playing a team that they were favored against, they would win. And if they were playing a team that they were not favored against, they would lose. They almost never upset somebody and play well on offense. They had a hard time closing out games against teams that were better than them if they held the lead. And now he's going up in competition. I didn't really completely understand the move from SMU to TCU. I thought with the direction SMU was going, you could make an argument that they really weren't that far behind as a program. It would not surprise me this year if if TCU struggles in their first year under Sonny Dykes, and it takes a little bit to get the footing underneath them. On the other side, a program that I think nailed their hire was Joey McGuire in Texas Tech. I love the culture fit there, and I think he's been a shot in the arm for that program. They don't have the depth there right now to compete for the Big 12, but I think he's going to get them out of the bottom half of the Big 12 almost immediately. And it's obviously going to help when Texas and OU leave, but I would expect Texas Tech to get on the right side of momentum here pretty soon under Joey McGuire.
Taylor, is another interesting game this weekend, tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, and that's at UTEP, North Texas at UTEP to kick off the season. UTEP's going to sell that thing out. This is going to be a big deal for both teams. We had Phil Bennett on the show yesterday, who's the North Texas defensive coordinator, as you know. What are your thoughts on that one and those two teams kicking off the year?
Yeah, those are two teams that I know well because it's Conference USA. It's teams that I played at both of those stadiums. Playing at UTEP is tough, even when they don't have a sellout. The Sun Bowl is a hard place to play, and they're going to have that thing rocking. I think North Texas, they're favored in this game. I like them to win outright. I called their game last year that started their run where they had to go undefeated throughout the last 5 games of the season to make a bowl game, and that's what they did. They went on a run for Seth Luttrell. Honestly, probably saved his job. And now they bring back a lot of their production, including their quarterback, Austin Ani, who, by the way, is 29 years old. I like what the momentum that they have built under Seth Luttrell. I would expect them to go in and win. And UTEP, they were the opposite. They started off hot last year, and they really faded down the stretch. And if you look at the wins that UTEP had last year, a lot of really soft out-of-conference competition, which is great for them because it got them back to a bowl game. But this year's a little different. It's a tougher schedule. They got to play OU. They got to play Boise State. So there's a lot riding on this game for UTEP. If they drop this, they're already it's going to be a much tougher path for them to get back to bowl eligibility. But in the opener, I like North Texas to win.
29 years old, baseball player. Got to be a baseball player, former baseball player. Yep. Yankees organization spent 6 years. He even got to Tampa. In the what's that? AAA, Paul, Tampa.
Yeah. It's a nice little stadium they had there.
It's still amazing to me, Taylor, that the state of Texas has won national championship. One team has won a national championship since 1970, when Texas split one after back-to-back years. They won it with Darrell Royal, and it was 2005. Took a Vince Young, once-in-a-lifetime player. Other states have great football, too. Obviously, a lot of people take from Texas as well. But is it still hard to imagine it's been 42 years and one team has won a national title from this state, and that now is 17 years ago?
It is. And it goes back to the expectations that you talk about. Look at the year in and year out Texas puts out, just by volume and the talent of the players that lead the state of Texas, with 4- and 5-star recruits that go all over the country. And that's always been the thing. The staff come in and say, look, if we could just lock down the 4- and 5-stars in the state of Texas, we'll never lose a game. But that's easier said than done. And a lot of it has been, go back and look at the historically bad years for A&M and for Texas. They've missed on quarterback. For year over year, they go get a 5-star that they think is going to be the guy, and they just don't pan out. I think A&M had really high hopes for Kellen Mond at one point, and he could never get over the hump. And so his critical numbers in crunch time, third down, in the red zone, he was one of the worst in the SEC. And it's things like that go all the way back with Texas to Garrett Gilbert. I opened against Texas in 2010 when they ran out in the I formation with Garrett Gilbert under center. Like, what is this? I think that's been a big piece for programs in the state of Texas is they've just missed and let some of the best talent at the quarterback position leave the state and go elsewhere and win national championships for other people.
Thank you very much, man. We love the segment every Friday at 4:30. Taylor McCarg, ESPN college football analyst, former Rice quarterback with us. Have a great weekend, Taylor.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
You too. Taylor McCarg with us Fridays, 4:30. And we're not done. We were going to today play the Brian Fonville hype video that he put together. It's like 3 or 4 minutes long to get ready for a lot of. I love the hype videos. I love some of the music that's picked, the highlights, and some of the things that are said. But we can't do it because of the setup or logistics here. We'll have that on Monday. I actually called Brian and told him that we'll move it to Monday as well. But so much to get to. We are live at a high school football stadium. Panther Stadium in Midway, or excuse me, it's in Hewitt and Woodway. The two cities are right next to each other and just south of Waco. Have a 6:30 pregame, Mansfield and Midway to start the 2022 high school season here. Next week, we're going to be in West Texas in Odessa, Ratliff Stadium, the famous stadium, Mojo, although they have been up and down themselves in recent years. But yes, Friday Night Lights, Buzz Bissinger, all of that. Odessa Permian and Midway will be on the road next week for that game as well. All right, 254-339-1122, the text line. There's a few questions. We'll try to get to those. Sikkim 365 Radio on the road, 365 Sports.
TFNB, your bank for life, is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texans are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don's Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance has protected fellow Texans with auto, home, health, and life insurance since 1952. With more than 260,000 square miles of land and 27 million people, that's a lot to cover. Whether you're wrangling cattle or wrangling kids, we're proud to protect Texans in all Texan ways of life.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Want more updates during the day? Follow 365 Sports YT on Twitter.
4:53, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Garrett, Jack, Jacob, Levi, Emery, all in some ways involved in what we do every day inside of the studios and also away from the studios as well. So, Chris, I believe Chris in Missouri has asked me and us on chat room, text, whatever, many times, can you guys give us your Big 12 preseason predictions as far as the 1 through 10? Garrett Ross, how do we know, Paul, if Garrett will have the graphic that Levi put together? I'm not sure we know that.
I can see it. Let me get to live here on the thing. So I just need to get to where we are in the show. I don't know where we are. Okay, there we are. Yeah, he's got it right there.
All right, here we go.
Right now.
So Levi Caraway put this up. Craig, Paul, and myself, we put this out. These are the predictions, at least for now, so it's evidence. And if we're right, great. If we're wrong, okay, great too. Because last year I surely would not have had Baylor at the top of the list. I would have had them probably around 5, maybe 7, 8, 9. I don't know. Paul Catalina, your top 10.
My top 10, I had Baylor at number 1, Oklahoma State at 2, OU at 3. Of course, that Bedlam swing game again. Kansas State 4, Texas 5, Iowa State at 6, TCU at 7, West Virginia 8th. Texas Tech 9th, and Kansas 10th.
How many of those teams do you feel like will earn a bowl bid or earn enough wins to get to a bowl game?
I think they got to get a shot at 9.
Okay,
I really do, out of the 10.
Because Tech went to a bowl game last year and made the coaching change mid-year, and Joey McGuire has a lot of those guys back.
And to me, 7, 8, 9 might be 6 and 6, 6 and 6, and 6 and 6.
Craig Smoak.
Yeah, I struggle a little bit with the top school. Ultimately went with Baylor, and folks say I'm a homer. I'm an OU fan, so not being a homer. But, I mean, who else is it going to be? I know there's a case to be made for Oklahoma State. There's always a case you can make for Texas because of the talent level and all that. But really, I think it boils down to Baylor and Oklahoma as far as just logical sense on who could win the title this year. Now, Baylor's knock against them is I don't like their schedule. I don't like the amount of road games and the opponents that they have. The BYU game in week number 2 on the road. I know that doesn't affect the conference title, but still, that's a game you're probably going to get beat up a little bit early on in the season. And they don't have really much of anything returning skill position wise. So there are, some concerns there for sure. I mean, Shapen, we've seen him play 2.5 games again, so I'm supposed to believe that he's just going to make it through all 12. I have a hard time imagining that. So I definitely have some knocks on Baylor in my mind, but I mean, in comparison to the knocks that I have for others, I think they're still one of the better teams on their feet. And when you have your entire 2 deep, if not 3 deep of offensive and defensive linemen, that's a great starting point. And I think Shapen makes that offense better than Gary Bohannon did, as far as with his arm. So I think that we'll see a bit of an improvement there. But yeah, I have questions, but I ultimately went with Baylor just because despite that schedule, I trust Dave Aranda. I do like the guys they have coming back because it's not like they're lacking in talent. They have a lot of good players coming back. It's just that some of them are young or some of them, are just not Jalen Petrie and guys that we've become used to. So long way around to just saying, yes, I know they have questions, but I can see them answering those questions and being able to just still be stable. I went Oklahoma number 2. I think Oklahoma's got a heck of a lot of talent. I think that, bottom level for them is winning 9 games probably just because that's what they do. They're a machine like that. But I do, have questions about the fact that it is a change, and it's a big change from Bob Stoops and Lincoln Riley, no matter how familiar Brent Venables is. He's also a first-time head coach. I think there's some things he'll probably learn along the way, even though he bided his time and certainly learned a lot under Dabo and Stoops and others. But I don't think he's just perfect, right out of the gates. And I do wonder, I wonder how much that Kel Gundy thing lingers after what Phil Bennett said yesterday. That still just is kind of weird to me. Not that that's going to cause them to lose games per se, but I just sort of wonder about the whole fit of everything right now.
But you heard how much it bothered a guy who was not on that staff.
Yeah, right.
And that's about, the coaching fraternity and the kind of the unwritten codes of things.
Yeah.
But even still, that's not his players. That's not, there was somebody who was mad about it for sure. And clearly really mad about it. And Brent Venables did what he thought he had to do. But at the end of the day, there's going to be people who are mad about it. There's going to be people who are like in the middle about it. And then there's going to be people who are mad about the fact that it went as far as it did.
Right.
And that he's not coaching there now. And so
coaches fraternity, as much as they bite back,
right or wrong,
the coaches fraternity is tight. It's I mean, yeah.
And so it's just one of those things is like, it's just a little awkward moment. And I just feel like there's going to be some other awkward moments for a rookie head coach, So that's kind of where I was coming from with that. Really splitting hairs, though, with Baylor and Oklahoma, though. I think Oklahoma's going to be good. Oklahoma State at 3. I expect them to be good. I just like Baylor and Oklahoma a bit more. And I'm not ready to go like, okay, this is the year that Spencer Sanders is, flawless and all of that. I mean, if it's going to be, it needs to be this year. But Oak State at 3, K-State at 4, Texas 5, TCU at 6, and I have TCU at 6 because they return an immense amount of production, like by far more production than just about every other school in the Big 12. I don't think Sonny Dykes brings in an offense, or Garrett Wright for that matter, that's like super hard to wrap your head around. It's not like going to take them a couple seasons to figure out what they're doing. So I think there's going to be in some shootouts with some folks, and I do think there's going to be a big learning curve defensively because, well, it's not Gary Patterson anymore, right? So that's just going to be weird. And I wonder how good they are early on defensively, but I think they're going to have a good enough offense, and Sonny Dykes is a veteran coach. With all that returning talent, I think TCU is going to be better than my bottom 4. Iowa State, who does not return a lot at all. And I know some people say, well, they're going to upgrade at quarterback. Brock Purdy wasn't that great or whatever. But, like, dude, you lost more than Brock Purdy.
He's the second best quarterback that they've had in the last 30 years. Seneca Wallace.
Okay.
He's not Seneca Wallace, but
like Hunter Deckers might be great, but I'm just, I'm not ready to just dive full in that they're going to automatically be better at quarterback, no matter how frustrating Purdy was. So the amount of talent they lost, and just, I got to be honest, man, after talking to Matt Campbell, Big 12 Media Days, like I know the coaching thing's not going to go away as far as like how long you're going to be here and all that. And I just got the feeling of like, it's just inevitable that it's going to happen. And I don't know. I'm just not as all in with Campbell and the Cyclones as I was like a year ago. So I have them at 7, Texas Tech at 8. I think that they'll give some teams some trouble. I think that they'll be bowl eligible. I think that Joey McGuire is certainly not inheriting an empty cupboard by any means, but there will be those natural growing pains. So I have them at 8, West Virginia at 9, and Kansas at 10. I know I went a deep explanation, but
no, that's fine.
I agree with you on Matt Campbell in that. There was a time where I could really convince myself that he was a guy because Mount Union and he's like a Midwestern guy, and he's not one who's going to necessarily, and I don't think he'll glory chase. Like, I don't think it'll be that. But given the way that we've seen this tectonic shift in how coaches are pursued and how there's this damn the torpedoes kind of pursuit of guys, and including Joey McGuire, who we're going to hire a guy off a team that we're playing in 2 weeks staff in the middle of the season. Like, those kind of things just didn't used to happen. Or we're going to not only fire the coach, but we're going to keep our powder dry to steal a coach from another university that would never think their coach would get stolen. And that happened to Notre Dame and Oklahoma. I mean, so those two things make me think that, particularly if Nebraska is open. If Nebraska is open and Trev Alberts is a guy who played for Tom Osborne and Matt Campbell is this Midwestern.
What if it's not good enough for him now? What if they're so bad lately?
It could be the NFL. I just don't think I'm not convincing myself anymore that he's going to be around for another 5-10 years in Ames. There's a
for
point.
Iowa State, I hope that he does. But
no, I know, but
for anybody.
For me, my opinion, I don't think that he's going to be around for 5-10 years. Now, I hope he doesn't, that we're doing this 5 years from now, we're still saying the same things.
Because then it's not a story.
It's ridiculous. And it's kind of getting to the point of being ridiculous now because it's going on 3-4 years of doing that. But I felt like they had a window last year. No matter what he's done, I think they're going to be really solid. But you can't tell me that they're so built up under him now that they're just going to replace the greatest team they had ever on paper. And they're just like, there's no missing,
But part of the other reason, Smokey, is why is Scott Frost lost? Not because he doesn't know how to coach offense.
You don't want to know the answer.
Well, the reason he's lost is because of the little things, right? What is Matt Campbell's forte?
Well, not special teams necessarily.
No, but some of the little things.
But my point about that, it's again,
What if the Nebraska job is such disarray that even the coach at Iowa State, who's been better, would have beaten them 4 or 5 years in a row? That's not enough of a lure.
Well, then it will be somewhere else.
Yeah.
I mean,
know.
I think it could be the NFL, like I said. And I'm not trying to like make that a thing. I'm just less in belief that he's going to be a long tenured guy there, and he's already been pretty long tenured there, but I just don't see it another 5-10 years him being in Ames, and I don't think most people in Ames probably see that either, and they're probably tired of hearing about this topic every single year. But
yeah, they are like Nebraska, like probably Baylor or others with coaches they've had.
Anybody who's not a blue blood, basically, and even blue bloods got picked apart last year in the coaching carousel, so like nobody's really safe, quite frankly. But
when Oklahoma and Notre Dame lose coaches, that's a year of insanity. All right, so that's Craig and Paul. There's not much difference between the three. And yes, I do have my feet up on the counter. Like, how lazy does that look? Here's mine. I'm not good at these. Baylor, because if any of the teams below them had what they have coming back, we would pick them to win the conference. Would you guys agree?
Yeah.
If even with the lack of experience of shaping, but with what we saw, we're having some people that are high and mighty on certain teams, and guys have never taken a snap. If any of the teams below them had their entire, all but one, offensive line and entire defensive line back, we wouldn't even be talking about who to pick. Would that be it? They'd be the pick. So Baylor won. Oklahoma State, I just think Mike Gundy sometimes can actually be underrated. He's done a really good job at that school. I think that the way they lost in that game in Arlington will just fuel them and has fueled them. Oklahoma, 3. It's almost impossible until we see them have a year. And God knows they'll never go back to what they were in the 90s under John Blake and Snellenberger and Gift. But until proven otherwise, they're part of the conversation. And they were last year by the nostril hit because they almost came back to beat OSU and Stillwater.
They're going to be good. I mean, Dylan Gabriel and Jeff Lebby's previous relationship, I mean, that's going to be almost seamless. You know, Beatonball is going to have a great offensive line. Like, they're going to have skill guys. I mean, Gray and Major in the backfield. They just got a running back today from it was a random-ass running back pickup. Gosh, where's he from?
Who are you talking about?
Oklahoma. They just got a running back like today.
I thought was it a transfer that's from Texas? Not Texas UT.
Yeah, it's like a transfer portal thing. But they just got a guy today. So I don't know how he fits in. But Gray and Majors, I think, will be solid. Offensively, I don't really, worry about them dropping off too much. Defensively, they should be good with Venables. There's been so much Sooner magic for like the last 20 years that at some point it's not just going to be seamless. And that's kind of where I'm coming from. And that's not, necessarily the best way to predict, who's going to finish where. But I'm just not as all in because things have been so good for so long. And even having said that, I'm still thinking they're going to win like 9 games. So I'm not being dismissive of them by any means.
Yeah, well, when you've been as good as they have been, all of a sudden when somebody says you may not win more than 9 or 10 games, you still kind of hyperventilate and start frothing to the mouth. Yeah. And that's just from the pride and passion of that fan base. So I have Baylor, Oklahoma State, Oklahoma. All 3 of us have the same. We did not share this at all. I have Kansas State at 4. Texas at 5. All of us have Texas at 5. And it's almost like Oklahoma until proven otherwise that they fall, if they ever do, that until we see them actually do it on the field and sustain it, they're kind of in that pack. West Virginia, I like what they've done with Harrell and the quarterback and the upgrade there. Their defense is going to be strong. Iowa State, I really didn't know where to put them. Texas Tech, Baylor was picked 8 last year. They won the Big 12 conference. I'm not saying that's the case with Tech. They're 8. TCU 9.
If Joey McGuire wins the conference this year,
he'll be the coach of the Cowboys next year. And Texas Tech fans don't get on me. And Kansas at 10. It's like with them until we can see them actually win a couple of games and just move up the ladder a little bit. We're all very similar. There's kind of a potpourri from 6 to 7, 8, 9. It just could be whatever. And we're going to have that. That's evidence. Levi Caraway did a great job putting that up. Garrett Ross, thank you back in the studio for getting that up as well. Why would we cuss Texas? Will not have as much power. Okay, that's not about this one. No Big 12 team is going to. There's a couple of the things that we had about.
Okay, do you guys think a Big 12 team's making the playoff this year?
I don't.
I don't either.
I don't because I don't think
I think they're all going to beat each other up.
I think that I think it'd be like a 10-2, 9-3 team wins.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of separation at the top. And so, and last year, had Baylor not lost to TCU or Oklahoma State won the Big 12 title game, one of those teams would have been in the playoff. But, it just didn't work out. But that's kind of what this league is, though, right now, right? There's not a great separator in it, and it might be another year before there is. Maybe Baylor
so close last year, and I still would love to have seen had Oklahoma State won the game, had they scored, would they have been in the semifinal? Would they have bumped somebody? And how about the controversy if it had been Cincinnati? It surely wasn't going to be
Cincinnati
Alabama and Georgia.
Period. Cincinnati wouldn't have been in over Oklahoma State. It wouldn't have been.
So, and that's again just basically based on what we've seen over the years since they started the playoff.
That's why Cincinnati fans are sending gobs and gobs of free chili down here. Thank you so much.
No, I just think that's how it would have worked out. I think Oklahoma State would have been in the playoff, and probably Cincy gets left out. And it sucks for the Big 12 that they've got this certain reputation, partly because they've just, basically taken it like the kid, at school who just, is getting bullied constantly. Kind of felt like that they were always getting bullied, and instead of standing up for themselves, they just never did. And there's this reputation that developed of just, there's still people that think it's just an offensive driven conference, even though it's been defensive for like 2 years at the minimum. And even though it's about to probably turn back in that direction somewhat, but the Baylor's, the TCU's, the Oak States, all knocking on that door, and then for whatever reason not getting in, whether it's this one loss that hangs over them or it's the fact that Ohio State trumps a tie between Baylor and TCU because Bowlesby doesn't want to claim a winner.
Is it also the possibility the Big 12 has very few great non-conference wins?
I mean, that doesn't.
I guess it could play into it. I don't think that changes the opinions of a lot of the people who have an opinion of them to begin with.
But if you would have beat Ohio State, if you beat someone in the SEC, good, not just a mid-pack.
Well, Oklahoma beat Ohio State in the non-con a few years ago. That was a big deal. Baker planting the flag at midfield, but that
was the year they went to the semis, right?
Yeah.
Oklahoma and Texas don't need to win those games in the non-conference, even though they don't need to schedule it necessarily, even though they have. But Baylor, if Baylor, TCU, and anybody else who wants to win the conference would schedule one of those games and win it, certainly it would help.
You say that, but Baylor finished fifth in the overall national rankings at the end of the year. There was a lot of respect for that team. Of course, later they didn't deserve to be in the playoff. We know that. TCU lost.
Part of the reason that Art Briles teams had one knock against them was they never played a good non-conference game
because when he got there, they were awful. And they were going to do whatever they could early on to win 6 games. To win, like they did.
Basically, it's Liam McCall's doing the same thing at Liberty right now.
Just
He's
get
doing
the 6 wins.
Same thing.
Get the 6 wins because they had gone 17 or so early on. But then that's what you wish they could have flipped a couple of them back 12, 13, 14, 15.
Yeah.
And by then it didn't matter.
But that was something that outside of that 13th data point.
If there's an 18 playoff, Baylor's been in the playoffs 3 times now.
14
last year.
19, 21, and maybe, probably not 15 because that's the year Seth Russell got hurt.
Yeah, they did the Russell Athletic Bowl. Yeah, I don't think they would have been in the.
All right, the chat room, Chris Bartles. Thank God I finally was able to get on there.
Oklahoma State would have been in last year. Oklahoma would have been in just as many times. I mean, the small playoff has. I mean, they're right there on that cusp, and they've missed out with some of those brands that could have made a really big difference in the perception of the conference. If you did have a Baylor or an Oklahoma State or a TCU having those opportunities to play in those games, but alas, it's the 14 playoff, and it is what it is.
Chris Bartles in the chat room. I finally was able to hook into it thanks to the technology department here at Midway. Oklahoma State wins the conference this year over OU. Baylor finishes 3rd. Let's see here. TJ Harris, Kansas State, Oklahoma State in the championship game. Just wait, Chris. I picked Texas Tech to finish 4th. I got Baylor and Oklahoma State 1 and 2 from Roger the Dodger.
Texas Tech, that's an interesting choice. I mean, I definitely have been saying that they're going to be better than your typical first-year coaching job. And I'm not saying that to like apply extra pressure on Joey McGuire. Not that that would affect him anyway. It's just that, again, they were a bowl team last year. This is not your typical coaching transition where it got so bad that you finally had to make a move either on the field or off the field. There's none of that. It's just it grew stale, wasn't elite anymore or close to it, and they made the move when they saw the opportunity to grab Joey, and they ended up going and making a bowl game with a temporary staff when all is said and done. And, I mean, why would I turn around and think they're going to be like not making bowl games or be like a 3-game winner now? I mean, what occurred that was so, shape-shifting that Joey McGuire can't just come and pick up where they left off and be around 6 wins in year one? Yeah.
Maybe goose him for another couple of wins.
Yeah.
The story from earlier you were mentioning about Oklahoma, Judson, Converse Judson is Converse. It's just in the San Antonio area. Judson receiver Anthony Evans, the third, committed to OU, one of the fastest players in the country at 10.2700 at 21.1 200 meters.
That's not the player I'm talking about a transfer player, but yeah, that's a good pickup for them is, that Anthony Evans kid, but gosh, where is it?
Well, let me go over a couple of, you look for it if you want, if you can, but also, let's see. Great show, brother. Thanks to Texas Buckeye 1953. We appreciate you. There's some talk about Riley and committing. They've got a commitment USC did from Texas today. Jonathan Ray, I think it is, Wrehe. Texas Tech was impressive in the Liberty Bowl last year when they crushed Mississippi State.
Mm-hmm.
Big 12 had a nice bowl run last year.
They did have a nice bowl run. Yeah, they beat the dog mess out of their old coach, and that's still a thing all these years later, Leach versus Tech. But, yeah, that had to feel good. Emeka Megwa, 4-star recruit who reclassified and redshirted last fall at Washington. He's originally from Keller Timber Creek, and he transferred to Oklahoma today. So that's who I was referring to. But the internet here has been very shoddy, and I couldn't grab it at first. But, yeah, that was a random ad today from UW for the Sooners. So, and obviously Gray and Majors will still be their main two, but that was an interesting pickup for them.
All right, we got a break. We are live at Panther Stadium midway. 6:30 is our pregame. We're on until 6 o'clock. Paul will have his top 5 in about 40 minutes.
It should be a fun year in the Big 12. Should be a fun year, an unpredictable type of a year where a lot of teams are about that same level. So I think it should be exciting.
Paul, when I mentioned Mansfield, that's who Midway plays. There's 3-3 against each other over the years. When I say Mansfield football, who do you think about?
Kennedy Brooks.
Kennedy Brooks, the former Oklahoma running back who put up monster numbers in a couple of games against Midway, including the one up there. It came down to a missed field goal, hit the upright. And they've had some classic games. When we come back, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. If you are on the chat room, throw up a question or an opinion. We'll read it. About college football. Throw it up. We'll try to get it up. We'll try to get it on there. And for you as well to maybe even opine to it a little bit. And the text line at 254-339-1122. We're about to come to you as well on Sikkim 365 Radio.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance, and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Why did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Welcome back to Sick'em 365 Radio.
And interesting back to work. It's a touchdown to Ben Simmons. Just love the poise of this young quarterback.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Tom Albers, staying in touch with you and your money through these difficult and changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
By the way, our broadcast tonight, Sick'em 365 Radio, also on 106.7, 106.7, The Eagle, Waco's only classic rock station, but also Midway ISD has a YouTube channel. And if you could see the equipment that they have that's out in the hallway as they're getting ready for the broadcast with the cameras and everything else, you would be blown away. It is very impressive what they've done here at Midway ISD when it comes to young men and women in school having a chance to understand maybe something to do with the broadcast or TV business. Here are some of the chat room comments. Juan Houston, by the way, rumored to get new uniforms for the next year. Mbuka, Paul or Craig was here talking about Mecca Mbuka from Washington, transferred to OU. See, is that his name?
It's a Mecca Megwa.
Well, maybe that's just the way it's EMBUKE on here. Also, from Juan, I'm hearing that Houston. Now, this would be interesting, Juan, because we mentioned this earlier this week. There's like 4 or 5 teams that are Jordan Brand football. Mentioned that that's a rumor that might be just that. West Virginia's Country Roads unis against Pitt are going to be sick from Cousins Corner.
What's the rumor? You never said it.
They're going to be a Jordan Brand football school.
Well, yeah, I mean that would be awesome for U of H. I mean, if that's what the big announcement turns out to be, that would be for them and a great branding opportunity. And certainly, with their football and men's basketball programs, they're definitely in that category of what you would consider, the elite threshold to be able to don that. So yeah, I could see that if that's what happens.
Cousins Corner also said every road, I didn't know this, every road in the state of West Virginia is included throughout the uniform. I didn't know that.
I don't know. Also, all the country roads.
Every road in the state is included throughout the uniform. Roger the Dodger, I'm glad Houston was able to sell the rest of their peanut brittle to get new uniforms. Stop. Punch the like button, Texas Buckeye 1953. Thank you. Worst team in the Power 5 from Scotty B. He says Vanderbilt.
I mean, I would say that's Kansas. The worst team in the Power 5.
Yeah, Kansas as of late has certainly been the worst team in the Power 5. Hopefully that changes for them this year, but and it should be a year where we do see some further improvement. But yeah, they've kind of held that crown now for 3-4 years.
Roger Dodger, ouch! What did Houston ever do to you? By the way, let's see another one. September. Cliffhanger. September is going to be a wild one for West Virginia. Man, that game with Pittsburgh is going to be nuts. Mike Gundy says he plans to coach 10 more years. I'm in heaven from West Blanket. Wet Blanket. Wet Blanket's a Texas guy, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Texas has had pretty good success against Mike Gundy in his
career.
No,
he's just using the quote that Gundy said, I'm in heaven. When we had Robert Allen earlier, whose sideline reporter said that the spine with the president, AD, and Gundy is as good as ever. And he's been there, 2 decades?
Yeah.
Thank you, Wet Blanket, for that. Roger, does anyone in the chat recognize that line? He's talking about a football movie. I'm not sure. Exactly.
That was the peanut brittle.
Oh, the peanut brittle. That's surely not me.
I'm wondering if it's Wildcats, but just throwing that out there. A Goldie Hawn vehicle.
Twisted Chicken. It's hype season for every team before the first game. So what teams out of each Power 5 conference won't live up to the hype? Now, hype means you have to be a part of that conversation. You might play for the championship or something like that, right?
So who won't live up to the hype in the Power 5 conferences?
Let's start with the Pac-12. Could that be USC?
Well, there's only one team getting any hype, really. Yeah. I mean, I understand that there's probably others that people expect to be. No, I mean, I think like Utah's getting it. It's only could be one of those two, though. Yeah. I mean, really, because I don't feel like Oregon's getting hype necessarily.
What are they ranked, like 11 or so?
Yeah. I don't even know. I just think they're expected to be typical Oregon, you know, with Dan Lanning. So USC or Utah.
Which of those two is most likely, based on what we know for now, not blow a tire, but not reach?
I mean, I would just say USC because everything's new. But
yeah,
I mean, their schedule is conducive.
If Lincoln Riley went to Oregon State, I know that's silly, but would they get the hype?
No.
Well, they would get some hype, but not to like win the conference out of the gates. I mean, that has to do with USC also having a superior talent level to most schools, even in down periods. So,
all right, let's.
Yeah, I guess USC. I mean, and so what that is what they only win 8 or 9 games as opposed to winning the conference. I guess I'm not in on them being like a playoff team and all that, but I do know that if the Pac-12 is going to throw a couple of slugs at them, but if they're able to maneuver around those, I mean, like, just get ready for the playoff hype because that's going to be freaking out of the atmosphere.
Big Ten. Ohio State hype.
Yeah, I think
I believe in them.
Michigan.
I'd say Michigan State.
I agree.
I think that they're a good program. I think that Mel Tucker's got a lot that's going, in their favor. I think that they're going to be, really strong. But I do think that was a whole lot of like just celebration for what wasn't like a Big Ten championship year. I mean, they won some big games and all that, but it wasn't like that they were, 11-1. I don't know. That was a really good year. It was a really good year.
Weren't
but if I had to pick
like
somebody,
10 and 11-2?
Yeah, they were good. They're very good. But I'm just saying, like, it wasn't like they won the Big Ten, right?
Yeah.
They didn't make the playoff.
Yeah, because they're in the division.
But you would think that they did based on just kind of the talk of, the massive extension and all of that. So, like, I'd say Michigan State.
Yeah, that was a real A&M thing to do, give your coach a $9 million contract a year and not win a conference.
Speaking of them,
well,
hype,
are you going to answer the question?
I'll say Michigan.
Okay.
Because they were so good last year. I mean, they were really, really good. And so I think that maybe there's a couple of hickeys on that resume that kind of take them down a notch or two. And I'm not saying I want to see that, but all right, SEC. Is it A&M?
I mean, there's
who else besides Alabama and Georgia and A&M are really getting hyped? I know they have like 8 teams in the top 20 before it's all said and done.
I mean, I would, if Ole Miss was getting hype, I would maybe say them, but they're not. They're not because
they're expected to be good.
Lane Kiffin's getting hype, but not Ole Miss.
Like A&M's the one getting hype. Alabama and Georgia.
Yeah,
that's just common. Yeah,
I would say it's A&M.
ACC.
Well, let me think about it for a second. Right. I wish I had some internet to at least pull up the names.
The SEC.
Yeah, I just need something to look at to keep my mind focused.
Of the teams that are getting hype, it'd be Alabama, Georgia, A&M, and.
I mean, Tennessee's getting a lot of hype.
Yeah, they are getting a little bit.
Kentucky's
getting a lot of hype.
Yeah.
Arkansas's getting a little bit. Yeah. I mean, they're kind of in that second tier. I say, shoot, I'll go. Gosh, I don't know, man. I feel like there's a couple good candidates, but I'll say Kentucky. I just saw a whole lot's being made about Will Levis and this NFL prospect and all that, and I think Stoops is a great coach, and they should be solid. But man, I don't know. I don't feel like the team's getting hyped though. That's the problem.
That's right.
I'll go A&M. What the hell? I'll go A&M.
Well, it seemed like that would be obvious. And by the way, if they answer the bell, good for them.
Yeah.
It's good for them. Now, Big 12. Could it be Baylor?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, they have every single, not every single hard game, but every place that they play on the road is hard to play. And places that they have not historically had success. West Virginia,
Oklahoma, they've won there once.
Look, they haven't played in Lubbock all that much lately because they were playing that game at Jerry World. But go back before that game, there's a reason that when they said, let's play that game at AT&T Stadium, Ian McCall said, yes, let's do that.
Well, 2 years ago, they absolutely threw up on themselves in the second half and lost that game. In that's when they died. That's when that team, they were officially in the morgue because that was a brutal loss.
It was
what loss?
The loss at Texas Tech and Lubbock when they just led the game, and they just.
That's still not the worst Texas Tech loss I've seen Baylor have lately. That would be 2016 and that just absolute no-show at AT&T when the coaches were halfway out the door and you had the wife of an assistant coach talking about how they were already talking about other jobs. Yeah, that was fun.
By then, that season,
the wheels were off.
That was shipped.
Yeah.
ACC.
Let's see who's getting hype.
Clemson and NC State really are the team in Miami. I would say Miami has a good chance not to live up to that hype because even though they've got a lot of transfers, Mario Cristobal has not done quite through the transfer portal what Lincoln Riley has done at USC, and those are two schools very similar in nature in what they're doing right now. I would say Miami's. It's going to be it's going to be hard for them to live up to the hype, and Clemson. Could come back down to earth, but I just don't. I don't feel like that's a team that's going to be 2 years in a row.
What's their highest level non-conference game this year? Don't they have somebody right off the top?
Miami is
Clemson.
Clemson.
I could have looked at the internet. I didn't know if you guys had that off the top.
Clemson's.
Yeah, I don't remember off the top of my head.
Best non-conference game this year is
Oregon.
Louisiana Tech. All
right, then okay. I was seeing.
Well, what I was going to say
they played Notre Dame in the middle of the year, but
in the middle of the year. Okay, so what I was going to say is, maybe there is a bit of a quarterback issue you have to parse through. Maybe DJ is not the guy, but I can't believe that if he's not the guy, that Klubnik's not either. So I think they're going to find their quarterback one way or the other and be fine. So I think Clemson will be okay. But I think Miami just because there's not really a lot of other good candidates in the ACC, quite frankly. I mean, NC State's sort of like the outlier that we never really talk about. And so it would, I think, be easy to say them just because they're not necessarily typically in this position of being overhyped. But with Miami, I do think there's almost this feeling of like the U is back already. And it's like, let's give it a little bit of time and not that the fans believe that like they're going to be competing for titles right away, but it kind of does feel like that almost in a sense that everybody gets scared because we're going to be back and now we got our guy head coach who's from here and all that. And so I'm not buying that just yet.
The article that David M. Hale, we mentioned it earlier this week. There was a category. We're back. And then kind of. It's Miami and Texas. And I think there was another school.
USC.
Maybe Tennessee.
Yeah.
And maybe USC. Yeah. So those are some of the three that have, just go do it, It's not that they've said that. It's that media or whoever, wet blanket. It's been good today. He's normally a little bit of annoying with me. The Cowboys haven't, Oklahoma State, had a losing season since Gundy's 2005 head coaching debut. They've won 10 games or more 7 times.
Yeah, they've been incredibly consistent. I think that just what's missing is, getting over the top on a little bit more of a frequent occasion. And man, they were knocking on that door last year. So yeah, I think if anybody wants to roll with Oklahoma State, I'm not going to talk them down from that, because yeah, there are questions, defensively when you have a coaching change and you have somebody who was good enough that Ohio State wanted them, but I know Derrick Mason's a pro and vet. He's a good DC as well. So yeah, I think Oklahoma State's got a lot of reasons to be excited about this upcoming year. And again, if you were to pick them to win the Big 12, I wouldn't argue with you very much. No.
All right. From Purple Haze, K-State making a run this year. Cousins Corner, there's a chance Oklahoma doesn't live up. Seeing as if they are transitioning to a new staff with a different culture.
I think there's a chance Baylor doesn't. I think there's a chance that Texas doesn't. I think there's a chance that Oklahoma doesn't. I think that Oklahoma State's maybe not going to be like the conference champ, but they should still be very good. So I don't think they'd fall too far off regardless. I think Oklahoma State will be like in the proper vicinity. But I feel like with Texas, it's like, there's expectations, man. This is Bijan's last year, probably. This is Worthy's next to last, probably. This is Ewer's debut. I mean, there's some expectations there. So you just came off not making a bowl game. Where's that going to fall? Is it going to fall in competing for a title or being more like last year? So there's kind of a lot of room there. Oklahoma, I've said it a million times now. Like, I believe in their talent. I believe in their coaches. I believe in their tradition and all those things. But, still a lot of change to absorb. And
they have had how much quarterback play.
As good as you can be for like 20 years. And so, at some point, logically, there's going to be a year where they're not 10-2. So if there was going to be a year like that, it feels like it would be this year that they'd be 9-3 or something along those lines. And Baylor, I've explained it a million times why. They have a lot of question marks. They have a lot of answers, but that was a really special year last year, and they got a lot of road games.
Jason White, Josh Heupel, Sam Bradford. I'm missing some, but Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray. They've had elite, highest of level of quarterback play. And can Dylan Gabriel give them that kind of quarterback play? Because that sometimes has been the difference maker.
And look, Dylan Gabriel's a fun player, but we didn't see him at all really last year. He got hurt really early in the season. And so, we don't know what.
He's not real big at all.
Jalen Hurts. These guys played at Heisman Trophy type level for they've had, how many of those guys have been in that discussion for 20 years? 5, 6, 7 of them?
Yeah. Well, look, they've got, 4 Heisman winners at quarterbacks.
Just start with Josh Heupel, who,
I just said him. Yeah.
And go all the way to now. I mean, they've had, like 10 guys that are all more than capable.
Can they get that from him? If they do, then they're going to be right there in the middle of it. All right.
Yes and no on that. Yeah.
Has Brown announced JT Daniels as quarterback yet from Cliffhanger? I don't think that's out there.
I don't think so, but that's just been in my mind. So he could have done that like a month ago, and I'd be like, yeah, sure. He could have done that yesterday. I'd be like, yeah, sure, because it's just been in my mind the entire time that JT Daniels is starting for West Virginia.
Could be doing what Lane and Jimbo are doing and keeping it a secret until the very last minute.
Yeah, I just assumed he would have by now. But
Lemansky. Guys, thanks for the great content. Thank you, Lemansky. Do you think some transfers will elevate a team and others end up not meshing with team chemistry and become dead weight in 2022, ends up with more surprises than ever?
Well, look, sometimes, and I do think that, like, you can get kind of heavy on the transfer portal and it can work out for you and those guys can swing a roster. But other times, maybe you get 7 transfers, you all want to be starters, those guys don't mesh. It happens. So.
Who will be – we haven't talked – we mentioned Ole Miss a minute ago. It always makes me think about Zach Evans and how dynamic he was at North Shore. Didn't work much. He had a game or two at TCU, and then, of course, that flamed out. I wonder how good Mississippi's got another running back, though, just went blank on who it is.
And there's a ton of hype around Zach.
He is really good.
I think people think that if Lane Kiffin can't handle Zach Evans, then maybe no one can
handle.
Yeah. whatever.
If the hands-off approach doesn't work, then and he still finds a way to get in trouble, then how who's gonna cure it? But yeah, I mean, as long as he stays out of trouble, because he did have a couple of dust-ups at TCU, just whether it be like team-related or whatever. The whole was the bowl game situation.
Yeah.
Or no, that was just a state championship, like dating all the way back to that with North Shore and the cell phone drama, where he didn't even end up playing for a state championship because he got suspended
the night before
the state title game,
and they won it without him.
And and then there's a whole what was the drama last year with him? The whole like when he threatening to transfer there for a while. I forget now at this point, but yeah, I mean, it always seems like there's a little bit of something with him. But yeah, they keep him on the straight and narrow. He should be very good, and they're going to be loaded with Texas talent because they got Ulysses Bentley as well from SMU, I believe, and so they'll be a good team again.
Bob Kramer, which G5 school finishes ranked the highest?
I'm going to say Houston.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But I think that, Cincinnati, Houston, BYU, the three new Big 12 schools, they all have a say in that. I think Cincinnati, obviously has to replace a lot, but they don't have to replace their head coach. And that's where a lot of the magic starts. But yeah, I mean, they do have questions because of all the talent that left for the NFL, but I still think Cincy's going to be really good. I think Houston's set up to be very good. And I think BYU's set up to be very good. So throw any one of those darts. I would be fine with that. But for some reason, Houston's the one that pops in my head right away.
All right, let's go to a couple more, then we'll break. BW said these are USC, Clemson, A&M, Michigan State, and Kansas State are the ones that will not.
I do think there's a lot of hype for Kansas State. I didn't even think about them, but there is a tremendous amount of hype all of a sudden. Like, they are not a dark horse, so we can throw that out there, right away. They are no longer that. They haven't been that as of like 50 articles written about them being a dark horse ago. You know what I mean? Like I said to somebody yesterday, are they even a dark horse at this point because everybody's named them one? So yeah, I think that they've gone from a team that was maybe flying a little under the radar, and really notable mostly because of Deuce Vaughn and his final year and all that, to then you get that Martinez transfer and just, some belief going. And I mean, I definitely can see where they'll be good, but I can also see where it's going to be disappointing because they're not going to, run through Baylor, Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, Texas, and, be 9-8-1 or something along those lines. Cause I think they'll be good, but I don't know if like Big 12 champion good right away. So I could see that.
USC, who's the most overrated team in the last 70 years, and why is it Michigan? 70 years? That's back in Schembechler's year. They won the national title in, was it 97?
Yeah, that was Lloyd Carr, but yeah. But it's been since 97. Since 97.
Yeah, for someone else I know, too. Yeah. And almost 97 for, you have the Jameis Winston thing throws everything out of whack with you.
I'm still in a nice little under a decade right now.
All right, from HR picking stuff. These guys are blowing smoke. West Virginia wins the Big 12. I love that. HR picking stuff.
I think there's a better chance.
We are just picking
and I love the West Virginia folks out there, but I think there's a better chance you're looking for a new head coach than winning the Big 12. That's just my opinion. I think JT Daniels makes them at least a team that you can get excited about. If it wouldn't have been him coming in, I do wonder, what the buzz would be like. I think that changed a lot for them, and I know there's other moves made as well, but I do feel like that was one where all of a sudden like a switch kind of flipped where you're like, oh, JT Daniels, Graham Harrell, wait a second here. But let's not forget, like, that's a team that still has a lot to build up and build on. And so, yeah, I get the optimism. I'm not downplaying that at all. But, yeah, I could see it being a situation where they're firing Neil Brown at the end of the year as well. Just as easily as I could see them, or easier than I could see them, hoisting the Big 12 trophy. That's just me, though.
Chris Bartles, Michigan is this year's Vanilla Ice of college football. Plus Jackson.
You mean have a massive hit and then be in a Ninja Turtles movie? Okay.
Yeah. Plus Jackson, Smokey knows I don't even know what I said. I don't know I'm actually trying to be a traffic cop here. Plus Jackson, A&M hype won't be lived up to. Miami's neither. Okay.
Oh, we agreed with that.
I'm just mad that somebody would say that, being in a Ninja Turtles movie doesn't make you awesome for life. Even
we don't even mention Notre Dame because they're not in a conference.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I thought about them with G5, but I barely consider them that.
Well, they're not G5,
because they're independent.
Cincinnati, Houston are two that pop up pretty quickly, right?
Yeah.
Those two.
Yeah. Well, BYU's, I mean, they're set for Bear, so
their schedule gives them a chance to just jump right into all that. All right. 5:42 is the time. Appreciate a lot of you in the chat room. I don't think we'll be able to get to all of them. Scotty B mentions Texas, Flush mentioned, again, A&M, Michigan, Miami, and even Baylor and USC. This is Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Cars priced right, day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy. And, I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor. And they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com. Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive. It's a staple of the Waco economy. And you're about to approach this time of the year where you have the holidays, special gifts. It's not that you don't have that every single day. What are some of the things you have coming up?
We kind of call ourselves the wedding ring store. We do all of our own custom work in-house. I've got 2 expert jewelers on staff every day. We can make anything from scratch. We kind of pride ourselves. Probably 9 out of 10 every engagement ring we do is actually made custom to what the customer wants.
People look at that, oh my God, I can't afford it. I can't afford something like that. You've shown me examples that you can fit pretty much any budget.
It doesn't cost any more to custom make something. You still have gold, you still have diamonds, and you still have labor. Best thing about a custom piece is if you have any old jewelry or heirloom jewelry or something passed down from a grandma or somebody, we can take that jewelry and use it towards your wedding ring for the sentimental value, and then you've got the product, and then it's just a little bit of labor and a little bit of design on your part of what you actually want.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Check out the 365 Sports family of channels on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
I mentioned this yesterday when we had Max Olson on, who did the story about Adrian Martinez now at Kansas State. These stats came out. First of all, it is an amazing story. It makes me, as someone that used to get so frustrated with Nebraska football, but with Adrian Martinez and some of the mistakes and the timing of it, because of some of these stats. But this is who Nebraska was.
played 13 games. Adrian Martinez played in 13 games, which the Huskers were tied or trailing by one score on their final possession. They went 0-13. The turnovers, 30 picks, 43 fumbles, 18 lost. It's staggering. Now,
that's just
staggering.
Say that again. Say that again. And this is just turnovers in his career?
Yes. 30 interceptions.
I mean, I guess over a career when you play as much as he did, that can kind of makes more sense. Like not in a season, but he still threw a lot of damn interceptions.
43 fumbles.
That's
18,
ridiculous.
18. That's 18 turnovers. So that's 48 turnovers. That's almost 12 or 13, 12 a year. That's a bunch.
And
man.
if you're K-State, like I imagine he's going to run a lot, and hopefully you've shown him how to protect the football because they didn't in Lincoln somehow or another. But I mean, he's not winning games with his arm, and that's all it's to know. Like if they're going to be as dynamic as they can be, Adrian Martinez is also running the football. So if you're a K-State fan, I know he absolutely can. But yeah, hopefully he's learned some ball security.
All right, this is a story. We got a couple of nuggets here. Paul's top 5. Alamo Heights High School in San Antonio. Public full nudity, forced eating of feces, hot sauce-laced Oreos, lap dances, throwing hot sauce in the faces led to a hospitalization of a player, and 21 Alamo Heights football players were suspended.
Yeah, he should have been for that.
Yeah, it sounds like just a really disturbing search engine history that you threw out there. But instead, that's hazing, I guess. Yeah, that's we did in high school, like not like the boys. It was like shaving heads, like call getting teed was what we did back in the day. I don't even think they do that anymore because that's too hardcore, is getting your head shaved. But the girls did the old Dazed and Confused, where they put like the ketchup, just all the condiment crap, and they make them do stupid stuff. And that was I don't think they're allowed to do that anymore because that's hazing. But like that's like a whole nother level. That's just like disturbing behavior. And I would have like people watching some of the boys that led that because that's not normal. Like I don't care what boys will be boys. Like I don't not me. Like never me. And
Philadelphia Eagles fans wouldn't mind.
No, but
that's too far.
When I was in high school,
not you, but
the hazing, which I still didn't like, was the upperclassmen, the first varsity camp you went to. Everybody had, like flip-flops, like slides on, like you would just take, one like 10-second whack, like everybody would hit you with the flip-flops. No, just little flip-flops. So it wasn't that bad. I mean, like now granted, some people were kind of nuts and those people are all, about where you'd think they are in life at this point. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But even then, I just think, hazing is just such a silly thing to do unless you're like.
Let me be an old man here because I am. Why is it just like completely unacceptable in some ways?
Well, I don't think hazing is unacceptable in that, like, like the Cowboys rookies getting haircuts and stuff like that. Like that stuff.
Like what about like the atom bomb in a guy's underwear?
Yeah, that to me, I think it's just
no, man. You touch my underwear, I'm slapping the crap out of you, dog. Like, I'm not even playing. Like, it makes me mad to think of. No, I don't. Like, for somebody to think they could even do that to me.
Oh, that was a go-to. I never had it myself, and never was involved in it, but I remember that. All right, on a handful of occasions. Couple of questions, real quick, then Paul. Area code 405. The Big Ten appears bound for 20 teams or more. If in fact the SEC will try to keep up, and they would. What teams would you take? Would they be FSU, Miami, Clemson, and then who else? If, in fact, that's available.
Well, if I were the SEC doesn't seem keen on, like, going, like, in a bunch of different directions, just maybe expanding the footprint in their little corner. So Clemson, Miami, and FSU, and maybe North Carolina would make the most sense to me.
You said, I assume North Carolina, Virginia will head north. For the Big Ten, but if they did. That's, again, a lot of things have to happen.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening anytime soon. I don't think the ACC is just breaking up anytime soon. I think that contract's going to keep that together for a while. But when and if that event comes, like, obviously I don't think there's anybody available now outside of that they're all that interested in. The move to make was the LA, was USC, really. I guess in theory they could try like to swing in Oregon or something, but it seems like that's too far down the road with the Big Ten now. So yeah, Clemson. I don't think Clemson would be my number one, but some combination of FSU, Miami, North Carolina, Clemson. Yeah, that just seems to make the most sense.
And the reason that FSU is in it is twofold. Bobby Bowden wanted to be in the ACC because he said, look, we can win the ACC all the time and play for national championships, and a great idea. He said, if we go in the SEC, it's going to be different. And two, Florida didn't want him there, but now the rules are different on your state rival. You know,
and Texas are in the same conference.
Would USC and UCLA fit in the SEC?
No. I don't even think that all the schools I mentioned necessarily would, but I mean, I think that they're the most likely to. I mean, who else are you going to pick for the SEC to go get? I mean, Virginia, I guess, or Va Tech or something. But
all right, one more, and then
But I think those are the four best brands they could get, and they'd all fit in some form or fashion. I mean, some people feel Clemson's more of an SEC team as it is.
The 419. What's damaging Warren's ego currently is that Notre Dame didn't immediately bow to him, the new self-appointed czar of college football. He had visions of Notre Dame immediately putting him second to only the Pope. Be careful what you say or do or what you have plans for.
I don't think it's hurt his ego. I think he's doing fine. I think Kevin Warren has proven himself smart enough to know that, like, he's put the best offer he can out there for Notre Dame, or the best, situation that they would leave their, independence. But I don't think he was sitting around telling everybody else in the conference, like, oh, we got him. I don't think he's doing that.
I think it's like, he could have made $1 billion, but he only made $850 million. I think he's still fine. I think he's perfectly fine with what they got. They shifted the landscape. They're now, in theory, or at least perception-wise, the conference with the momentum. I mean, look what he did do, and what nobody can deny now is that he made them as relevant as the SEC, at least for the time being. And who has been just the talk of the talk, the cock of the walk, and all that for 20 years now? It's been the SEC, right? Mm-hmm. And this is the first time in like 20 years or close to it, outside of like Clemson or a Florida State jumping in there in the early 2010s, that there's been anybody to even approach them, knocking them off that little perch. And now there's a conference that's approached them. It's at least knocked them, giving themselves some room on that perch, and now making more money than they are. So that's what's really interesting to me, is that there's more than, one big dog in town now all of a sudden. And it's like, it's not just historically or, there's somebody else that can at least bark back at them. And I think that's healthy.
It is very healthy. Very good point. Paul's top five, the next.
This is Paul Catalina's top 5 at 5:55.
I knew we'd need a quicker one today, so maybe not as much crosstalk on this one, because Garrett's got to get out the door.
He's leaving us? He's gone.
But here in a second. He can't until we're done, because we need the equipment. Otherwise, we're going to sound quiet again. All right, so Max Olson and Bruce Feldman did some transfer rankings of the top 100 transfers. I found something interesting in there. These are the top 5 FCS to FBS transfers in that group. Guys who are making the jump up, and this is something I think you're going to see more and more often, of guys who may be under-recruited from small spots, get to an FCS school, show out that they're pretty good athletes or grow into their body, and then all of a sudden schools are like, oh, well, why don't you come and play here with the big boys? So, number 5, offensive lineman Hunter Norzad, who went from Cornell to Penn State, and will be starting for the Nittany Lions this year. He is, stepping into a team that should have been better than they were, and lost some close games last year, and was just kind of blah. So I need some help just on offense, because their offense was not good. But if you're going to get better, the first place to start is always the offensive line.
Yeah, and I'm sure the team GPA went up a little bit with that as well. The Cornell transfer.
Yeah. Number 4.
Isn't that where we had a former guy went there?
Yeah, JD.
Okay.
JD. Number 4, Antoine Wells went from James Madison, who also is moving up to the FBS, but they were not while he was there. He's on his way to South Carolina, and he's going to catch passes from Spencer Rattler. So I think he's made a great move all the way around.
Yeah, I mean, JMU is a terrific program. I mean, they are going to be fascinating to see at this, step up level, kind of how they, how they blend in early on, and how they, acclimate, I guess is the word I was looking for. But I have no doubts they're a very well-run program, and obviously they're not going to win national titles the way that they were anytime soon, but they should be solid. So somebody coming from a program like that, they're on the, the right trajectory, and that's very interesting. I'm curious to see what James Madison does this year.
Yeah. And okay, let's see. Number 3, Tyler Hudson, Central Arkansas to Louisville.
Okay, let's go back for a second. I lost my train of thought. Excited to see what James Madison does, but I'm also excited to see what South Carolina does because of Rattler and him being at the quarterback spot. So him having another weapon and somebody from JMU who's going to be sturdy is going to be no doubt good. But I am fascinated because South Carolina somehow like sort of flying under the radar because there's just so many teams in the SEC that are of note or of interest. So it probably is a good thing for him in the long run. But sorry, go back to that next one.
Number 3, wide receiver Tyler Hudson goes from Central Arkansas to Louisville. He's playing with McMillie Cunningham, who is an ACC Player of the Year candidate.
Yeah, he was sensational at times, and there's going to be a lot of hype for him as well. So yeah, Louisville's going to be interesting just to watch the quarterback play.
Yeah. Number 2, Jared Verse, defensive end, went from Albany, who is playing Baylor next week, to Florida State. He made an excellent life decision. Let's face it, there's nothing better he could have done. Actually follows in the footsteps of Jermaine Johnson, first-round draft pick from last year. Now, granted, he went from Georgia to FSU, so that's a little bit different. But Jared Verse was someone who, after his last year at Albany, people started seeing him, and he kind of shot up and grew and put some muscle in his body, and he runs really, really fast. Florida State was kind of the first team in on him and kind of used that Jermaine Johnson angle, who Jermaine Johnson is the reason they won 2 of the games they won by himself last year, and he almost beat Clemson on his own. I think Jared Verse steps in and helps a team that needs to get to a bowl.
You said it. You're the FSU fan.
Yeah. And number 1, the most exciting and interesting one, Cameron Ward, Incarnate Word in San Antonio, up to Wazoo, follows his offensive coordinator, Eric Morris, who is now there at Wazoo. And this is a guy who put up some numbers last year and feels like he can do it in the Pac-12. And Wazoo getting a lot of hype because of it.
Yeah.
Or at least some more expectations.
Yeah. I wouldn't know about hype, but there's at least some optimism and some feel good, and obviously not the best situations with how their last coaching transition worked, so trying to get through all of that and get on the other side of it, great pickup for them. And I mean, Incarnate Word, we don't talk about them much down here in Texas. They're lower level, if you will. They're down there in San Antonio, but overshadowed by UTSA and what they've got going on, not to mention all the other big programs that have big carve-outs in San Antonio. So
GJ's there now, right?
Yeah, I believe he is.
GJ
Eric Morris was there. Yeah. I'm curious to see him play. I haven't seen a ton of him, seen highlights and whatnot, but there's a lot of buzz about him. So yeah, if he lives up to the buzz, then that bodes very, very well for Wazoo as they start to try to kick off this new era.
Pinned at the top of the premium section is our segment with Jaren McVay, who joined us earlier today from the McPlay, and a lot of what's going on in his life since then and afterwards as well. Okay, Garrett Ross back at our studio. He has to get to a high school game. We are at High School Stadium, Panther Stadium, Midway in Mansfield in 30 minutes. Our pregame at 6:30. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, and I'm David Smoak. And thanks to Burt Colgan Ford for our Friday afternoon high school football coverage from Live Stadium, wherever we may be.
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody out there for listening. We do appreciate you, and I'm glad we'll have some games to talk about on Monday. Actual games. That'll be fun.
Wins, losses, or me and just peeling skin off my arms from Saturday afternoon. Sick of 365 radio. Good night for now.